on YouTube right now. Thank you, Nathan Alexander, for getting us moving here.
Great. Thank you. So I'll reconvene to open session at 6:02. And I'll start by sharing our vision and mission for the district. Every student receives engaging and challenging learning experiences to reach their greatest potential and thrive in a diverse global society. And Fort Bragg Unified delivers exceptional, engaging, equitable, and collaborative learning opportunities for all students. And we are still meeting virtually due to the governor's emergency orders. And members of the public who wish to address the board during the board meeting are asked to please submit prior to the start of the meeting by emailing boardmeeting@fbusd.us, and staff will make all attempts to share and record any submissions received prior to or during the board meeting. And we do have a report out for final action in closed session. There were 3 full leaves approved and 1 partial leave was approved contingent on position availability. And our next item is approval of agenda. Do we have anything that we need to pull off the agenda or move? The only thing I saw was 12.2 is an other, and I don't know if that needs to be moved to information and discussion or if it really matters. The negotiation openers.
So on 12.2, we just have to make it available. That probably should have been a discussion. Renee, were we advised to put that into other? Okay, let's go ahead and move it into information and discussion and make it. Do
you want it after transportation and planning before the board policy?
It doesn't matter where you put it.
Okay, I'll just put it under 12.2 so I don't forget it. After the 11.5. And so if there's no other items that need to be pulled or moved, can we have the approval of the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, a voice vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, so moved. And is there any public comment on non-agenda items?
We do not have
there's no comment.
Thank you. Next is the patriotic exercise for Trustee Babcock.
Sorry, I'm trying to get situated. All right. So we know that I usually don't do a typical patriotic exercise. And I was really recently struck by some exchanges in our community and wanted to focus on kindness tonight. So here goes. So April is a symbol of spring, and spring is a symbol of change. And as we continue to forge forward in this new and challenging time in our schools and our world, I wanted to share this little reminder of why we chose this work. The students here remind us of why, and their message is clear. Please enjoy their faces and students from somewhere, and of course, their message. And now I will share.
The little things in life are easy to take for granted, like getting away from the kids for
To be kind is to acknowledge other people and make them feel good. Being kind to me means
be caring or like to I guess respect other people.
It means be kind to be generous. Let's say if someone dropped their sandwich, you should help them out.
It's important to be nice to other people so that they feel that they have a part in the community, that somebody cares for them.
You don't know where they're coming from, which struggles they're having.
If you be nice, it gives you a magical life. If you're not nice to other people, they might be mean to you. If you're not nice, maybe they want to play with you. You won't have any friends. The other person can feel bad, and then they're uncomfortable.
I mean, why would you want to pick on someone else? Because they might be different from you. Different race, they may come from different places.
Even if someone's different from you, you shouldn't bully them and be mean to them.
How is it going to benefit you to making them feel bad?
If you're not nice to people, it'll come back to you. Treat them how you want to be treated. The outside human being is the cover of the book. The inside might be a good story, but you never know if you didn't get past the first page.
Where you come from makes you special.
I feel everyone's equal because I'm a girl. That doesn't mean I'm weaker. We're all the same species. We all have the same things inside of us.
I don't think color or race or ethnicity is much of a difference between people. I think all common, we just want to be loved, we want to have a good sleep at night, and we just want to have a good future. My hope for the future is to give everyone the same right and feel safe wherever they are.
I want everyone to turn good, and I hope nothing bad happens to anybody. I hope you respect other people.
I hope that you won't be judged on how privileged and how much money you have. You're judged on who you are.
I hope that everyone will be nice to each other. And that's my hope.
Thank you, Kathy. That was very sweet. It's nice to see little kids because I have teenagers. So number 5 is our acknowledgements. If Superintendent Walker can guide us through.
Sure. So we have Public School Volunteer Week. So we're encouraged to recognize our public school volunteers for the week of April 20th through 24th. Thank you to everyone who volunteers in our school system, from the coaches. Many people help with our athletics. We have parents who volunteer to help get our promotion and graduations going. So thank you to all of our wonderful community spirit-minded folks. We truly appreciate you. FBUSD Employee Appreciation Day, May 14th. So we always try and find a day in Fort Bragg Unified where we can honor all of our employees at the same time. We have the National Day of the Teacher that's observed on May 4th. And then CTA has Day of the Teacher that's observed on May 12th. And then the California School Employees Association week is always the third week in May. So we chose May 14th, which is a Friday, so that we can thank all of our employees and really honor them as much as we can in a COVID landscape. So that's going to be our Employee Appreciation Day. And again, National Teacher Day, May 4th, CTA Day of the Teacher, May 12th, and CSEA Employee Week, the third week in May. So we will be honoring folks at BUSD on May 14th. April is Autism Awareness Month. And believe it or not, Worldwide Autism Day was April 2nd. So we're honoring all of our kiddos who and our families who are challenged with this in their family, and encourages us to recognize April as Autism Awareness Month. So April is also School Library Month, and Earth Day is April 22nd. I thought it was the 20th. Did I get that wrong? So it's Earth Day is in April, always a good time. And then our donation acknowledgement, we had $600 received from Amanda Vinette for the purchase of sensory items for our Alt-Ed program. Thank you, Amanda. That was incredibly generous. $1,000 was received from the Bill Papione Memorial Scholarship Fund from the Community Foundation for the Vern Piver scholarship. $10,000 was received from the Mendocino Coast Children's Fund to support ongoing services, programs and services, and they allocated as follows: $2,000 for Redwood, $2,000 for Dana Gray, $2,000 for Fort Bragg Middle School, $2,000 for the high school, $1,000 for Alt-Ed, and $1,000 to Fort Bragg High School for their Pay It Forward pantry. Linda Banta generously donated $2,000 for the Pay It Forward pantry at Fort Bragg High School. And the Mendocino Coast Children's Fund also donated another $553.13 for the Pay It Forward pantry, and $1,500 was received from the Mendocino Coast Children's Fund also for the Pay It Forward pantry. So thank you to Katrina Tichinen and to Tim Anderson for all their efforts in the Pay It Forward pantry. It's a wonderful, wonderful program, and we look forward to all the great things that we'll be doing with that. Thank you, Annie Liner and the Children's Fund, for your generous donations to our schools. We absolutely appreciate it. We also had $1,000 was received from MT and Lisa McKellar to support the Pay It Forward pantry, and another $5,000 was received from the James G. Cummings Foundation to support the Pay It Forward pantry. So there was a wonderful article in the newspaper as well. So thank you to all of our community members.
Wow, that's quite a list of things that are positive things that are happening in the month of April, and then the donation acknowledgement list is pretty impressive in a community that's dealing, through a pandemic. So that's really appreciated. So did anyone get any communication they'd like to disclose?
Yeah, I think we all got emails from Katie Turner and Scott Menzies and Tina Rose, and I also got one from Gina Velassi.
Those are the ones I didn't get one from Gina, but those were from those are the ones I wanted to say.
Very good. And I received most of those about, and the topics was about in-person learning, and then eating in the classroom were the subjects.
Oh, and Scott's was about the stop sign or lack thereof on First Street.
So are there any public comment on agenda items?
We do have one public comment on agenda items. Would you like me to read it? Would you like to read it? How would you like this done?
If you'd like to read it, that's great.
I can do that. Public comment is from Tina Rose. Dear President Paoli, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Walker, thank you for all the work that you have been doing for our school district. It is overlooked and not said enough. I appreciate the positions that you are each in and appreciate your time, effort, and energy to serve your community. Thank you. I am frustrated and tired. Every day that my children are not in school continues my frustration and exhaustion. At this moment, Thursday, April 8th, there are no barriers, roadblocks, or orders from the state of California or County Public Health to not expand to the broadest form of in-person learning. Every family and student still has a choice in whether to send their children or not. Thank you for that. With that being said, why are we turning kids that want to be there away? It frustrates me that there are empty seats that could be occupied by children that want and are already committed to being in front of their teachers, and you as a district are not allowing those seats to be filled right now. That is completely counterintuitive to public education. It is getting difficult to explain to my children why they cannot be in their classrooms. It comes off that they are not valued. I would like to know how much more work has been submitted by the students since they have returned to the classroom in hybrid model. I would hazard to guess that all students are different students when they are physically sitting in the classroom, the environment conducive to learning. This continuation of keeping kids out of their classrooms is not showing how valuable education is to these kids or how valuable they are to your district. These kids are finding and being shown how valued they are elsewhere, like their jobs. As it is, it will be a hard task to get all your students back to where they belong in the classroom. Do not postpone expanding in-person instruction without a valid reason. The state and public health show that it is safe right now. Our country is now in the orange tier. Why wait? There are 8 weeks of school left. Waiting 3 weeks for survey responses from the high school is unacceptable. 4 feet can accommodate any students that want to be there. Public health even reduces that to 3 feet. You have the guidance, you have the vaccinated educators. What is the reason to wait? Explain it to me in a way that will make sense to the kids that want to be in school. Thank you, Tina Rose.
Thank you for the comment. And I just want to go over our disclosure that what is being read into the record by the district employee is not construed as endorsement of the comment by the district or the position of the district. And the next item on the agenda are reports. So we have board reports.
Well, I'll start. Let's see, I've attended the Fort Bragg Middle School's ELAC and Parents Club and Site Council meetings and the MECA meeting discussing the upcoming job fair in May, and the district ELAC, and then today the Friends of Mendocino Coast Center meeting. And I talked to Laura, the principal at middle school today. She said that, I know Zaid's going to report out, but she just was saying how excited they are to have everybody back on campus. It's been wonderful, and they had their first home game, so it was just really very exciting. So that's it. Thank you.
Would you like to go next?
I don't have anything to report. Thanks.
Gary?
I attended a Dana Gray Site Council meeting last week, and that is all I have done.
Thank you. Kathy, is she there?
Sorry, I have a broken arm child that was trying to get a pizza out of the oven. And he's the only one home. Sorry, my husband left him. So the only thing I have to report is I just want to share that how excited that I've seen students around the campuses and on buses. And anyway, it's just exciting to see the students moving around our district and getting more and more activities that are open to them. So I want to thank the work of the sites and the district for working on that.
Thank you. So we attended, I think, Kathy, this morning, the board chat, which was one parent, and she was very gracious and always informative on how distant learning and in-person learning is going for her kids. And then I also keep up to date with the CSBA updates, which are helpful because things have changed a lot since our last meeting, and I'm thankful for that resource. And I also attended 2 of the Lcap meetings, and they're great. Becky does a great job the first half an hour explaining the goals, and it's really informative. And I'm hoping, I don't know if there are any more left, but hoping to get more input. And then Mary and I attended the legislative action March 16th, and that was interesting virtually, and it's a little scripted, so you don't feel like you're able to give exactly the needs of your district, but we were able to throw in, the scare of declining enrollment and talking about how the pandemic is affecting our district. So it was nice to be able to speak to our congressmen and senators. So that was a nice experience. And I just wanted to thank, everyone that's in our district. It's a tough year. I don't think we're going to sign up for this pandemic again, but just working together and keeping the communication open, and know that, the thing that keeps me in check, because I want to thank our board as well for volunteering all these hours. It's not easy and everyone's doing the best they can, but I always look through the lens of the child, and that keeps things in perspective because we have to deal with a lot of adult stuff and the kids don't need to, they don't understand all the adult stuff we have to do. And so I just try to pause and reflect through the kids' eyes and to know that this is their childhood. And everyone's just, I just really appreciate every person in our district that's working to pivot us forward. So I just want to close with that. And our next item is our student rep, Zaid.
Hello. Redwood Elementary has no report. Dan Gray Elementary has no report. Fort Bragg Middle School, crazy socks day and Crocs day is tomorrow, April 9th. Students are completing Lcap testing. Fort Bragg Middle School, masks are being sold by their student council in the front office for $10. Upward Bound applications are due April 20th. Fort Bragg Middle School had their first soccer game yesterday, April 17th. Softball practice is ongoing. Yearbooks are for sale online. April 22nd is the end of the grading period, or 23rd is the end of the grading period. Fort Bragg High School, ASB is handing out goodie bags to all students this week during a drive-through pickup. Inside the bags are also a bingo card with fun activities for students complete and return after spring break for prizes. Senior gift bags are being held out this week as well. Student of the Month awards will be given out on April 28th. April 30th is the end of the fourth quarter grading period. Student contest. Sports contest have finally started happening. Fort Bragg High School staff wants to wish everyone a fun and safe spring break. Alternative Education has no report. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaid. And once again, feel free to stay for the whole meeting or exit whenever you need to. And I want to also honor that. Enjoy your spring break as well and all the staff, because I know I'm feeling spring fever. And I hope everyone has a great break. The next item on our agenda is the Superintendent Report.
So we have nutrition services, and I believe Pilar Gray is here, and I do have, I'm ready to share my screen.
Well, hold that until she finishes, and we're doing a little tag team thing here.
Okay, you let me know when you're ready, and I've got it. Okay. I'm ready as well. So Pilar Gray is our Director of Nutrition Services. Annually, she gives the board a report on what's happening in nutrition services. And before Pilar, you begin, I just want to publicly thank you and your team, truly, for the amazing work that you've done. Your team has not left their post, not once. They have been feeding our community since this whole thing started on March 17th, and they have rolled with more punches and delivered. I can't even begin to tell you how proud I am to work side by side with all of our employees. I am so proud of what our nutrition services has done for this community. It is without a doubt heroic. And I just want to say that publicly because they have been in the trenches the entire time, handing food out at the height of the pandemic. So thank you for all the work and everything that you've done to bring food to our children and our families.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you for that, Becky. It truly is an amazing team. I cannot say enough great things about the people in our nutrition services and what they do every day to make sure our kids are well nourished and ready to learn and ready to have a good, healthy life. So thank you for acknowledging what they've done. And they're really proud and happy to do what they're doing. Not once was there a complaint, not once was there, we don't want to do this. It was like, what more can we do? I mean, they're just gung-ho and I love it. So thank you. And on that note, interestingly, the last board report I got to give was 5 days before we shut down. So here, it's been a heck of a year, and here we are. So I'm going to give you a little updates on what we've been up to. Of course, the focus has been on the COVID-19 emergency feeding. Throughout this, we were graced by the USDA with lots of waivers, which made this manageable and tolerable and better for the community because they allowed us to do what we call seamless summer feeding, which means we can serve meals to any child under the age of 18, even if they're not enrolled in our schools. And we've had remarkable participation from a lot of families whose children don't go to our schools yet or are coming from, further other areas from the coast or from different school sites. So it's been really good to be able to help those families and kids out as well. And it's also helped us maximize our sales, which is always important for our revenue. And it simplified all of our reporting, requirements that we had to do. We didn't have to, gather information about every individual child. And we still are collecting some individual data, but that's really to support our after-school grants. It's not required. But we're grateful to the parents who are still giving us their kids' PIN numbers so we can collect that data, most importantly for assets. We've been distributing an average of about 790 meal bags per week. And in each meal bag, we're providing 5 days worth of meals and snacks. And the maximum that is allowed is what we've been sending out. And we've been doing that every Wednesday for the last year. And we just changed our times this week to try to accommodate more people. We keep kind of playing around with how we could best reach people. So we shifted it to 11 to 2, hoping to catch more people during their lunch breaks from work, but still be able to catch those families who are with their kids until 1 o'clock with their distance learning. So we'll see how that rolls out. And we've only done it once so far, but we're going to really continue with that till the end of the school year. We have been doing bus delivery of meals to our most remote sites throughout the whole time for people who might have transportation issues to make sure we're reaching those children and that none of them are falling through the cracks. We've also been holding bags for our school sites staff, at the sites for themselves for convenience to pick up because we discovered in this process that our pickup times were conflicting with a lot of our own staff's work schedules. So we've made arrangements at each particular school site so our teachers, custodians, secretaries, anyone who works at BUSD can just pick them up right there. So that's been a nice and very well received by our staff. Let's see. Throughout this, probably the biggest challenge has been, I think, of anybody who's working in any sort of service industry can tell you right now, the supply chain's a mess. It has been ridiculously difficult to actually source food, paper goods. We were fighting for paper bags in the beginning. That's no longer a problem. But now it's really the food manufacturers. I thought they'd be coming back up more to speed, but they're not. We're weekly getting notifications from various processors who are just not able to keep up with the demands. And a lot of them have shifted away from schools at this time, surprisingly, and gone into retail. But they're experiencing, staff shortages, supply shortages themselves. So we've been doing the best we can to try to keep as much variety as we can, but still keep as much quality as we can. Make sure we're scrutinizing all of our ingredients and what goes out. To make sure we're giving the kids the best food we can. But it's definitely been the challenge. And regardless of all those challenges, we're getting lots of positive feedback from our families. They seem very grateful, and that keeps us going. And it's really sweet when, the kids come in the cars to pick up the meals and smile, wave at the lunch ladies, and they're excited to see us. And we've received some cash donations from the community this year. We've received 4 of them, totaling about $700. So that's been really nice that people just came out of the blue and said, hey, we think what you're doing is great, and we want to support you. So we're very grateful for that. I do have some more just kind of general information to share, but I'm going to hand it off to Wendy for a moment, who very graciously put together a little bit of financial data for you. So I know you're always curious about that. So I'll give it to her, and then I'll come back and give you a little bit more just kind of general stuff.
Okay. So it's funny you talk about the sourcing issues. I just heard the other day that ketchup packets are in short supply because of all of the to-go food. So it's not just hitting, schools, it's hitting everywhere. So Becky, if you would share, I put together a very short summary of some financial information. It's a little difficult with nutrition services because the lag time on receiving the money from the state is so far away from the purchase of the offsetting foods and supplies. But so we cobbled together the best we could. And you can see we have 1920, the actuals through February. You can see our revenues and our costs, and that we were at about a $16,000 deficit. Through 2020, through February of this year, we're actually looking at $160,000 surplus. And some of that is due to the level of reimbursement that we get for different types of meals. Because they are reimbursed differently, and because we are distributing all of those meals to everyone, our reimbursements are up quite a bit. And so projecting those out to the end of the year, we could be actually, and because of a little bit of a CARES Act supplement, we could actually end up with a bit of a surplus at the end of the year. We don't know for certain that, and yay, that costs are going to continue to be contained with the shipping mess in the Middle East. We could end up seeing some increase in costs, but there's a nice little cushion there that we're looking at towards the end of the year. So it has been an unusual benefit to be distributing food this way, even though it may not be the absolute best version of food, but it's the best we could do, and they are doing a wonderful job of putting good stuff together for all our kids. So.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, we're really, really anxious to get back to cooking. I got to tell you, we're very anxious to get back to cooking, and all this prepackaged foods and the cost of foods and supplies have been outrageous. I mean, it's amazing how much has gone up, but yet all the extra support and the added participation, and every kid getting 4 meals 5 days a week is phenomenal. So that's something that's unheard of, and that's certainly helped. So thank you for putting that together. So just a few more. Then you got a fat agenda today, so I'm just going to give you a few more tidbits of things you might be interested in. Last year, I applied for a $15,000 breakfast expansion grant for Fort Bragg High School, and I'm super excited to say we got it. And so with that grant, what we have purchased is a grab-and-go cart. And the vision of that is to break up, when we're back in school and things are normal, those long lines in the student union, which honestly really aren't that long, but the perception is they're long, and it feels long because it's a crowded space. And so to kind of break up the space and hopefully have more high school students participating in our meal program. So I was able to purchase this great little cart that we can roll out into the quad and serve grab and go meals right off of it to kids, at breakfast or lunch. So maybe those who are leaving can grab something on their way out, and maybe we can reach more of the kids during that short break time. We got a wireless remote point of sale system to accompany that because we have to capture every single sale. And we bought a hot holding cabinet, another hot holding cabinet for the kitchen itself, so that we can produce more of the hot food, which the kids seem to prefer, and keep it at a good temperature and moist and palatable. And we were also able to buy some cafe tables, which the student union has been there. It's pretty small. It's a tight space, particularly to cram a lot of teenagers in there. And there's just not enough tables for them all. And so we find a lot of kids just standing around trying to eat like this. And so we got the type that you stand at, so we could fit more of the tables in there, and the kids can have some place to put their food down. So we could put some of those into the student union, and some maybe out near where the grab and go cart is, or in the hallways. So for the kids who grab their grab and go will have a place to go, hang out with their friends and eat their meal and be a little bit more comfortable with that. So that was exciting that we got that funding. An update on community eligibility provision. Now, I know there's a lot of push right now in the state to go to universal feeding like we have right now, but I wouldn't anticipate anything happening quickly with that. But in the meantime, we're still on community eligibility provision, which means all of our kids get to eat for free. I am reapplying to recertify us for the next 4 years because during COVID, our numbers have improved as far as the percentage of reimbursement that we can get under that program. So if it goes as I hope it will go, we'll see, not a huge increase at the elementaries and middle school, about 2.5%, but a good 8% increase of the amount that we can pull from high school and alternative ed. So, not huge game-changing numbers, but certainly an improvement. And that would lock us into those numbers for the next 4 years. So we would have those through 24, 25. And if for any reason those numbers don't go through and there's a problem with recertifying, our numbers that we're at now are still very good, and they will still hold through 22, 23. So regardless, we'll still be on that program. I'm just hoping to get us, a few more dollars out of that program. At this point, Three Rivers, we're not vending to them at this point. I don't know what will happen in the future, but just so you're aware. Other just little tidbits, as COVID hit, our remarkable Fort Bragg High School construction class was in the middle of building our storage shed at the high school and was unable to finish, unfortunately. They did get most of it done. They did a fantastic job. So I'm super grateful to our Fort Bragg Unified Maintenance Department who came out and finished it for us. So we now have a fully functioning storage shed outside of the high school kitchen, which is extremely helpful. Most of you might not have seen the inside of the kitchen, but if you have, they basically try to work out of a closet as far as storage goes. And it was extremely challenging, boxes, cases everywhere. So for us to be able to put the paper goods and canned goods out there has made my team's life a lot easier. So thank you to our maintenance team and for our construction class for making that happen. Last year I reported that our Fort Bragg High School Advanced Digital Media Arts class was also working on a breakfast in the classroom training video. Unfortunately, that came to a halt because of COVID. And hopefully when we're all back, maybe the new class can pick that up and run with that and make it happen. I'm happy to report that even through COVID, the Fort Bragg Unified School District school gardens are still producing food that we are able to send home in these meal bags. We have Iris out there maintaining those gardens every day, and she's harvesting the food and bringing it to our cafeteria so we can put them in the bags that go home to kiddos. And the Noyo Food Forest, managing the high school learning garden, has also been growing and harvesting food that we can include in our bags. So that's some nice positive things that have been able to continue in spite of, all the craziness of COVID. And that's all I have to report for you tonight, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Scott?
So first of all, thank you. I think you guys have done just an amazing job providing nutrition for our community during this time. So thank you to you and your entire staff. Through the thick and thin, you've just always been there, out there, giving out bags to anyone with kids who needs them. So I can't stress enough how huge that is for so many families. You mentioned you can't wait to get back cooking again. Do we have any idea on when that's going to be allowed, or are we waiting till next year, or what? Are we finishing out this year with the bags and all this, or what? Is there a plan?
So I'm going to jump in here. Is there a plan? We always have a plan, and then someone tells us that we get to change the plan. So that's the wonderful fun part of this year. So in all seriousness, we are going to be continuing with the bags through June 9th. That will be the last bag delivery day. We're going to look at what the summer brings when we can figure out if we have staffing. That's the issue right now. We're kind of in a holding pattern for summer until we figure out who we have and what's allowable. We won't know what's allowable probably I'm going to guess, for another 4 weeks, because I am anticipating that the rules are going to change again. Pilar, feel free to jump in if you know more than I know at this point. Right now, the governor has released that on June 15th. If conditions continue to improve, meaning hospitalization rates stay low and vaccinations continue to increase, then the tiered system, our colored tiered system, is supposed to go away on June 15th. Well, that's 2 months away. A lot changes in 2 months. We all know this. So we don't know if June 15th is going to happen or not, but if it does, that means that coming back to school in the fall is a go in a normal capacity. So for right now, if that's the case, then again, there's a lot of ifs here. So I say this to you because I don't know how to answer your question other than maybe. Okay. And coming back to school, if we come back to school and it's a normal day, then the kitchens are going to fire up and provide a normal day. But for right now, we just have to make a guess, and anybody's crystal ball is probably better than mine. So.
Right, exactly. We just don't really know what we're walking into. So I have multiple plans for next year, depending on what happens. When I had to put out bids, we go to bid every year for all of our food and paper goods and dairy and produce. And I had to do a very wide selection of items. Are we doing bags? Are we cooking? I don't know. I just threw it all out in the bids and we'll see what happens. I'm preparing menus with the hope and goal that we will be back cooking, with fully knowing that I might have to throw those all away. But it's just, plan for the worst, hope for the best. I'm planning for all, very possible, 2 or 3 different scenarios, and we'll just see what the world brings. We'll be ready either way.
Thank you, Pilar.
Thank you. The next item is the teacher on special assignment, which is also known as TOSA.
So our teachers who are on special assignment are actually our instructional coaches. And that really is a much more important title. They are instructional coaches. They work with our teachers day in and day out to really provide support. I know Sarah McGee is online right now for the FBDTA report. Don't worry, Sarah, I'm not going to put you on the spot. You have a wonderful report that she prepared with Jean Whipple. She and Jean Whipple are both intervention teachers. Jean is the intervention teacher at Redwood and also the TOSA, the instructional coach, which is more important than the TOSA title. So our instructional coach at Redwood is Jean Whipple. She also does the intervention program, and you can see that is noted in their report. Sarah McGee is the instructional coach at Dana Gray and also the intervention teacher at Dana Gray. And just a sidebar note that Angie Daniels, I believe, started the year in the position and transitioned to our TK position as a teacher. And she has been a valuable resource in all of this. So thank you, Angie, for your hard work as well. Sarah McGee and Jean Whipple have really been doing a good job of supporting our teachers throughout this pandemic. It's been a little nutty, to say the least. So juggling the intervention program and working with kids, and then juggling working with our teachers to provide instructional support has been huge. So you had time to read their report. Do you have any questions? And there's Sarah.
Thank you for the report in advance. It looks like it's pretty comprehensive what you're doing and supporting a lot of teachers and staff. And I just can't imagine with all the technical challenges and just trying to focus on, supporting kids without overwhelming, because I think the kids, between the staff not feeling, having all these new features and skill sets they had to receive, to have that smiling face with the child having to, go get through it every day with the instructions. So I just want to thank you for all your efforts and providing the report in advance so we were able to see and understand what the positions are this year.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll go ahead and comment just a little bit that it was, it's been learning along with the teachers, like in previous before COVID, we had researched instructional practices and were going ahead with helping teachers implement those and meeting them where they were. And for many of the issues that came up this year, it's been learning alongside them and trying different things out. But at the same time, trying to rely back to the training that we have and what we know is good instruction. And so trying to tie those two things together has been what we've been trying to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And Diana, just so you know, your first couple of words come in really low, and when you start talking, then we can hear you. And I don't know if that's the case for anybody else on the screen, but that's my experience right now. So just know that your first couple of words, they don't get picked up.
So do you think it's my mic? Is it tech or is it me?
No. It's definitely not you. I think it's more than likely your microphone. But like I didn't hear you say okay. So we're going to get through it. So just know that if you say something important in those first couple of words, you may need to repeat it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wish I could control that. And I wish I wasn't speaking through this computer, but here we are. Thank you. So 8.33, educational options for 21-22 school year is the next report.
So we are going to be exploring some school options for the next school year, and recognize that I have no answers for you. So right now, like I just said before, if the governor's plan of June 15th is a go and we are out of the tiered system and we come back to a normal school year full bore, then for sure in-person is what we are going to focus on. Kids coming to school 5 days a week, going from the normal times of 8 to 3:30 or whatever that is, depending on the school site you're at, and moving forward in that normal school system mode. We do want to acknowledge and recognize that we've had some kids have success in the distance learning model. I do not know if CDE is going to allow us to continue in a distance learning model and what that will look like. And what's interesting is that the kids who've had success in a distance learning model, we don't know if they're going to have success in continuing distance learning if they're going to school from 8:30 to 3 o'clock. That's way, way different than going to school from 9 to 1. So we do want to have some options available so that families, if they're nervous about coming back, that we have some options. It may be independent study. I was on the superintendent council meeting today with the superintendents in California, and we were discussing this very topic. Right now, the California Department of Education has capped independent study for public schools at 10%. That means if you have 1,800 students in your school district, then your 10% cap would be 180 students, meaning no more than 180 students can be on independent study. Now, there is some questions with that. Is it 180? Is it the total 10% or is it 10% per site? And right now we have been operating from the model of 10% per site so that we focus on that site and that 10% is distributed equitably. However, in Fort Bragg Unified, we do not offer independent study right now for K-8. It is incredibly limited to grades 9 through 12. I will also tell you that the independent study model really is dependent on students working and performing at grade level. If you're not working and performing at grade level, independent study is not a good model. So with that, we are going to be exploring these. I have no idea if we are going to be able to offer a larger independent study program. That's a question that has not been answered yet. Right now, the limit is 10%. Can we offer 10%? Sure. Can we offer and expand independent study to our K-8 due to COVID trepidation and giving families a choice? Sure. I am not willing to expand independent study to kiddos who are not performing at grade level, though. It's just not going to work. So with that, the other wild card is distance learning. I have no idea what kind of leverage we are going to be given with it, but we do want to provide some choice. Questions?
The only comment I have is just that it's challenging. I know it's challenging to have, the simultaneous teaching, like how would this really look? And I don't think we need to, this is just a report, but I'm just thinking how will the numbers shake up for if this is available, to know if you have just a sole distant learning teacher or how it's going to pencil out to match up staff with students. So I imagine I appreciate you looking into all the options and just keep us posted. How it's going to function to meet everyone's needs.
Other comments, questions? Kathy?
Is there any hint about timeline as far as, is it something, I know tier, no tier, things like that is going to change at the moment, but are they going to give you any heads up to plan ahead, or is it going to be August 1st? They're going to go, surprise.
You know, I have to tell you, again, my crystal ball is probably not as good as everyone else's. I anticipate that this is going to come out in some kind of trailer bill language. I anticipate that the legislature is going to talk about this and give us some kind of guidance in the form of a bill, whether it's a Senate bill, so it'll be an SB, or an Assembly bill, which will be an AB. But I expect some kind of trailer language to come through the legislature to tell us what we are going to be able to do. But again, I just want to reiterate that our students who are on distance learning and loving it, 9 to 1 is a heck of a lot different than 8:30 to 3 o'clock. But I also just kind of want to say that I understand that options are always good. So any other comments?
So how, I guess we don't really know when a decision is going to be made. What is going to be our process for making a decision of what can be offered once we know what can be offered? And you probably don't have an answer to that. So it's a good question. It's a good question. So let's say we get an assembly bill or some trailer language that says you can offer distance learning, but here are the parameters. Then our process will be that I will need to go to the bargaining unit to talk to the teachers to negotiate that job description of what that looks like. We would come to you as a board to say, is this a program you want us to offer? And to be honest with you, I'm kind of shooting from the hip here because this is not something that we've really done. And Wendy, I'm going to throw you under the bus here, or not really, ask you to help me. That's better than your demise under a bus. If I have to look at this procedurally, what makes sense to me is that we probably talk about, do we want the program or not? And then I go and negotiate the job description. But those are the two things that need to happen. In what order, I'm not sure. So if in the fall it's back to school as normal and the regular hours, do we need to negotiate anything with that, with FPDTA, or is that already negotiated? If we go back to the regular collective bargaining agreement, we would have to look at what the parameters are for the return and just make sure that we're all copacetic with it. I think it's a good idea to meet and make sure that people are feeling good about a return. And we can do that very, very simply by re-examining the memos of understanding that we have with CSEA and FPDTA, our two bargaining units, just to make sure that folks feel good and feel safe about returning. If there's nothing stopping us because the governor says, green light, here we go, back to normal, there's not much to question, Scott. It does. I'm hesitant to give an opinion at this point because it's a little premature. But it'll be interesting to see when guidance is given and what that guidance is. I mean, distant learning we did because we had to. Mm-hmm. And to offer it when it's not necessary, I don't know.
Well, this is just a report. So she's just letting us know that the request maybe is there and that we really can't. It's okay to say we don't know. And I have to tell you, it'll be interesting to see when it comes down the pipe, because it was a very lively discussion today on the superintendent's council meeting, because everybody is kind of, chomping at the bit wanting to know. We are planners in education. No one likes anything last minute. And all the changes that have happened this year are 100% out of our comfort zone. We have things planned a year in advance, 2 years in advance. And this is something that I haven't been able to quite stomach very well. So, at this point in a typical year, we have a master schedule for our high school. We have a master schedule for our middle school. We're not there yet. At this point in the year, we have our staffing numbers pretty secure. We're not there yet. So there's lots of things that we are in a holding pattern for, and we are going to have to roll with the punches again. I don't anticipate having much of a summer again. The summer is going to be really consumed with trying to make a good guess for August. So I don't know what to tell you about distance learning. I don't know what parameters they're going to give us.
Worst case scenario for families who are panicking right now and saying, I don't want my kid back, just kind of hold on, because independent study is still allowable. The question is going to be how many kids we can have on independent study and how we redesign that program so that we can work with our families and work with our kiddos on a larger scale. So we do have a little flexibility, not a whole lot, but let's wait for the language to come from the legislature and see where we land.
Thank you for the report. So the next item is the LCAP family engagement.
So we have had several meetings already, and I want to just call attention. I have changed. I asked Mr. Kale to change the April 20th meeting, and that change was made today. So Renee, if you could reflect it in the minutes that the April 20th meeting is now April 21st. And the reason for that is because when we come down to later in the agenda, I'm going to ask, I've been doodle polling to see if we could do a special board meeting on the 20th to talk about the COVID relief fund. So that'll be later in the agenda. But the Dana Gray Parents Club meeting has been moved to April 21st to accommodate that. Thank you, Mr. Kale and your dynamic team. I've also added 2 meetings. I am meeting with members from our Hispanic community to really have an LCAP discussion about what we can do to provide better services for our Latinx families and making sure that our kiddos who are English learners, who are part of our unduplicated count, that we are serving them the absolute best that we can. So I had one of those meetings today. The second meeting will be tomorrow if anybody wants to attend that, and that will be at 3 o'clock. But I want to take the board very quickly through what the process looks like. So I'm going to share my screen, and I promise to do this quickly. So what we're looking at in our engagement meetings is, and if you could give me a thumbs up once you can see my screen, great, thank you so much. So what we're looking at in these engagement meetings is we are looking at the current LCAP goals, and then I walk our families and our stakeholders through, here's the goal, here are the actions that we're considering from the last LCAP, and then do you have any suggestions? Do you have any questions on that? And then I memorialize what they're saying to us in these forms. So when we start looking at LCAP development, I'm going to be giving you copies of all of these forms. So right now, our first goal, our objective, this should be an O. Sorry, this is our Spanish version. Our first goal is increase college and career readiness. And then I show our families the actions that we've taken under that goal. And then the second goal is increase student academic achievement. This used to be close the achievement gap, but the reason we reworded the goal is because we want all students to increase their academic achievement. Whether you are the valedictorian, a student working at grade level, a student who is struggling to reach grade level, we want everyone to show some kind of growth. And so we reworded this goal to really capture that we want growth from everyone. And so the actions for that particular goal are all in this document as well. One of the things that we are planning right now for next year in this goal is we are hiring additional intervention teachers to help with the learning loss mitigation, with the learning loss, I should say, for in the area of reading. So instead of one intervention teacher at Redwood and one intervention teacher at Dana Gray, next year we will have 2 full-time teachers dedicated to that. And then we're actually including an additional intervention teacher at middle school. We have not had an intervention teacher at the middle school, but we are doing it on a temporary basis for next year to address the learning loss. And then our third goal is to improve school culture. And that's where PBIS, restorative practices, and then our training comes in on ACEs and big picture learning at Alt Ed, Link Crew, Web, and Pod, all that comes into play. So this is the document that we have to give you an idea. These are all the LCAP documents that I've been keeping that I've shared with you as a board so that you can go in and view them so that as we start developing the LCAP, and we're looking at the actions that we're going to take. You can click into any of these and see what we've done. So for instance, I can click into this one from the middle school. And you can see the data that I collected, the questions that were asked, and you can see what was gathered from that middle school meeting. Questions for me?
Yeah, I just wondered, well, two things. One, I thought the two meetings that I attended went really well. In terms, there weren't a lot of people, but there were a lot of great ideas generated, I thought. That was great. And I just wondered how April 5th, how did that meeting go? Did you have a good attendance?
That was the community meeting. We did have a few people. I believe, Diana, you joined us for that for a little bit. I think what's been great about this LCAP process this time is that I have a better idea of what's happening in the district. The first time we did our 3-year cycle, you know, I was kind of thrown into it, and the LCAP was put together by a different team. So that was difficult for me. And then you're just trying to Band-Aid the 3 years to get through. We've done some good things with our LCAP with coordinating all of our school plans to be 100% aligned to our LCAP. What I think is exciting about this LCAP year, and what I want to encourage the board to really understand and consider, is that our LCAP is giving us our funding guidance for the next 3 years. It is a 3-year plan. And what we really should be looking at is, in the terms of Wendy Boyce, is building this from the ground up, really looking at what are our budget priorities, what do we want to use this money for, what is the goal, so that at the end of the 3 years we can say, okay, this is what we wanted to do with our LCAP. These are the metrics that we've used to identify if it's working. And then we have to ask ourselves, has it been working? If it's not, what are we going to change? If it's working, okay, how are we going to continue it beyond the 3-year model? So this is our time to really come together as a community and as a team and say, this is what we have for supplemental and concentration. This is what we have at the base. These are the priorities that we have as a district. And how are we going to build this LCAP to address the needs of the district? And I'm not sure who we need to mute, but someone needs to mute.
Help me.
So thank you. So in any case, that's what we're looking at with this. It's been exciting to have the different community groups come together and the different sites. They've been great conversations. The administrators have been able to listen into the feedback, and they're building their site plans based on these discussions. And again, we want to look at what we have and build it from the ground up. That means that we need to reallocate some of our resources. Some of the things that I want to talk about into the LCAP when we go in next into the next few months here is looking at, if we want to increase more community engagement, how do we do that? You know, how do we increase that community engagement in all things? We've talked about moving the athletics budget into supplemental and concentration, because if we don't have a gate fee, families can come to the games. Families can be more involved in what their kids are doing. Employees can come to the games and not have to have that as a piece. You know, to get into a basketball game, if you have a family of 4, well, it's $20. And then if you decide you want to have something from the snack shack, well, that's a whole nother issue. So in any case, looking at some of those things on how we can increase our community engagement, how can we address the needs of our families, how can we look at our college and career readiness, our student achievement, and our culture. So all that is part of the LCAP, and all of that is really setting a 3-year strategic plan to lead and guide us. We know things change on a dime, but this LCAP is really our roadmap on doing what we say we're going to do. And that's Mr. Kale's famous words. Diana.
So I like how you hijacked a couple of meetings. I think that's getting a group that's, you know, engaged, you know, at a site per se. So that's great, because it looks like there's some different times, but I know there's never that perfect time in trying to get community input. But the presentation's about a half an hour. And I think if you're a brand new family member or community member, you might just be like processing it all. And so you've done a really good job of hitting all these different groups of people and sites. But I'm not that I want to throw more work on you, but like, would an LCAP chat be kind of something where you could do first thing in the morning where someone, because at the end of the day, maybe your day has already gone sideways. There's no way you could commit, but maybe doing that 8:15 time and just have it not be a presentation and just have it be a more casual, like, this is what's been working for my family, or, you know what, this is what I think I need more of, and have it be more of a conversation. So they're not so bogged down, because you give a lot of good information. I just know when I've gone through a presentation, I have to like pause and then reflect, and then you come up with those ideas.
So after Mr. Kale's meeting on the 21st, Mr. Kale's meeting will be the 8th LCAP meeting that we've had. And I'm happy to throw out a morning meeting, and I'll put it out on Parent Squared, and we can advertise it. And in fact, since we're all here right now, I'm looking at my calendar, and I can do.
Well, could we just tie that to specifically to next month's board chat and do, or, you know, not to add another.
We could do that, but I'm going to have the first draft of the LCAP almost completed by then.
Okay.
So we would need my only morning that I have available, my next morning, and I know you're not going to believe this, but it's the absolute truth, is either going to be, well, it's going to be the 26th. I don't have any, I could do Tuesday morning, the 20th.
And I mean, I can too, but it's more about the community. It's not about my schedule. But I could do either morning. I could be.
I would rather than be sooner than later, but let's throw out something for April the 20th, and we'll do an 8:15 kind of LCAP chat. And so Renee, if you could set that up, please, 8:15 on Tuesday the 20th.
I got it.
Thank you.
The first day back from the break. So I guess that's a good day.
I've always brought this up, and it just doesn't seem to work out, but to have students talk to, and I know that there's a group of students at the high school that meets. I don't know if your calendar might provide you to be able to ask some students about their experience and how that, again, I've been saying it for years, but I didn't think to tell you about it again earlier in this plan. So if you don't have time, I know spring break really cramps things, but I just always think if you really ask, they have some good things to say.
So we have the student input data that we had right before COVID. I had actually talked to Fort Bragg High School and Alternative Ed and Dana Gray students and middle school students last year. I met with all, except for Redwood, but I met with Dana Gray, middle school, alt ed, and high school students last year for LCAP. And I met with them in person right before we shut down. So I still have all their data. I'm happy to meet with kids virtually and open it up so they can jump in and I can talk with them. My calendar is a little bit tight right now, but I could try and make something happen that we can open it up to alt ed in high school and start with that. But I do have the data from the kids from the previous year. I realize it was pre-COVID, but they had great ideas that we are mixing into it already.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That's enough.
Thank you. Scott?
So college readiness, right, is a big part of this. Obviously, the last year has thrown a kink in what that means these days. And I'm curious if in the meetings or when you talk to kids, if there are things we can put in there to help them prepare for what's probably going to be a new, new parameters for what college readiness means. Testing, all that sort of stuff, applications, colleges. I mean, we never talk about it. We never have to, but that environment has changed drastically as well during this past year. And what does that mean for our high schoolers over the next few years getting ready to enter that world? So it's just nothing, I don't need a response, just kind of something to think about as you talk to those kids.
I'll get to that when we get to the summer incentive, because I think we have lots of potential coming up.
Thank you so much for your engagement for LCAP. And our next item is 8.4, Facility Modernization Plan. And I believe we have a guest from QKA.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Chapin with Kutroki Clock Architects. Thanks for having us this evening. Yes, I'm here to present our schematic design for the new project over at Redwood. So let me share my screen here. Everyone see this screen okay? All right. All right. So we met a few months ago, kind of talk about the early ideas about the campus, and so we have gone back after meeting with the group over at Redwood and have laid out the building and made our first pass of design on it. So, kind of refresher, we're going to replace build a new building where the existing 5 portables are at the south end of Redwood. And then the existing special ed and preschool will remain during construction of this new building. And at the conclusion of the construction of the new building, the special ed and the preschool will be demolished and the new bus loop will be installed, as well as a new main entry for students that aligns with the crosswalk to better develop a clear entry point for students. The building itself will have the existing special ed portable. This is the edge of the existing classroom. So the building itself, as people get to it, there is a covered walkway in the front of that provides protection from the elements. You enter at the center of the building into this entry space. When you walk through, there'll be a nice display board with all messages from both preschool and special ed. We are going to have cubbies on both sides of this entry space, and then a door will lead you into each of the 2 spaces. The preschool itself has 6 offices on the side that matches what is currently there. They use these offices also for small pull-out breakout spaces as well. So they did need the 6 spaces.
Kevin, can you enlarge that just a smidge,
sure.
Please?
See if I can do that. There, is that better? Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep. And then it does have a student restroom. This is going to be fairly similar to the student restroom that's at the special ed over at the high school. So I'll have a washer, dryer, some storage, 2 toilets, 1 non-accessible and 1 fully accessible. I'll have storage for extra kids' clothing, and I'll also have a roll-in shower as well. The preschool also has a teaching wall with sliding marker boards so it can have a lot of storage put into it. Has a small residential style kitchen and a small eating room, eating space off the main preschool itself. What we did with the offices is we tried to line the doors and the windows to try to add a lot more natural light. We do have some direct to the outside lighting. So on the south edge of this building, there is doors to the outside and they'll go out to the playground. We do have a covered walk that covers the exits for these doors. And so that creates a very large outdoor space for both the preschool and the special ed. Between the 2 rooms, we are proposing to put in a folding glass partition wall. This particular brand we're calling out is called the Nano Wall. So when it's open, it creates a real flexible space. So that the 2 rooms combined are almost 2,000 square feet. So it gives a rather large flexible area on the campus. Right now, there's only the NPR that has that size of the space to get people together. So it really gives the campus another large flexible area. The special ed room has 1 office. We do have 1 additional staff restroom that is access from the covered walkway. We heard there was a need for more staff restrooms on this side of the campus, so we provided one. Very similar restroom for in the special ed with a shower, the accessible and non-accessible toilets, and then the washer and dryer as well. We do have another kitchen. We have 2 comm rooms, so this is a space that the students can be pulled into or go to lacks some sensories and allows kids to readjust and refocus when there is a lot of sensory overload. Right next to that, we do have a small sensory room, which will open on to the larger sensory room. This sensory room is currently takes up a full portable classroom. So we do have a second door to this space, so the students outside this building can use that large sensory room as well. And we're also replacing the speech and reading rooms that are out in portables right now as well. For the exterior of the building, we're trying to make this building a little bit unique, not to completely blend it into what's out there at Riderwood right now, but we also don't want to make it stick out. So we do want to try to tie it in with some similar materials or a look to it. Here we're proposing to do, instead of wood, we'd use fiber cement board. So it gives the appearance of regular wood, but it doesn't have it won't rot because it is a cement type product. It's also very non-flammable, which is great too. And then we'll have standing seam metal roofs, just like the rest of the campus, over the 2 classrooms. So that's a tall, clear story volume. So on the south elevation, we have a lot of clear story light windows to allow a lot of natural light into the space. And that's why we put the covered walkway on the north side too. So it gives some protection there, and we're not losing good natural light. Let's see. Oh, on the covered area on the south side, where as you come out of the 2 classrooms, you are putting a couple large skylights there too. So there'll be a lot of natural light in that large covered area outside the 2 classrooms. The next plan is just kind of what you see when you look straight up at the ceiling. So anything that has these lines going across it, that's just your typical T-bar ceiling that you see in a lot of spaces. And then anything that doesn't have any pattern to it, it is a fairly low ceiling. We do this. We are going to start getting all there up front, which will do that work during the summer. We for sure will be able to get the portables out during the summer. And the goal is to try to get the rough grading done and a pad prep before the rains come. So. And then it allows us to get the site package in a little bit later, or the building package in a little bit later, and so we can get a contractor on board and hopefully be under construction before the winter rains come.
Are you talking about splitting up the demolition between different contractors than the new construction builder?
I believe later on the board agenda, you guys are going to, there's an item on there about different delivery methods. So if the board decides to go with the lease back contractor, it'd probably be the exact same contractor that would do both. They'd be under contract to do both increments.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So from the district perspective, one of the things we're looking at is some of these pieces are a little over our head. So to help us through some of that, we're going to be sending out an RFP for a project manager to help with some of the pieces, just because we don't have the expertise internally to do that. So that'll be coming up. I've asked for a template from legal so that we can move forward with that. And we've signed a proposal for the geotechnical study that has to be done before anything can be moved, really.
Mary?
And do you have any ideas about when that building would be completed?
The goal is to try to have that the building completed by the start of summer of 2022, so they can demolish the existing preschool and special ed during the summer and build the bus loop while the students are gone.
Oh, great.
But it's all depending on how fast the division, the state architect goes.
Yeah.
And right now they're running a little slow on the structural side.
Yep. Thank you.
And I'd like to put in a little plug to the community, if anybody is listening, that we're still looking for some people to fill out the Citizens Oversight Committee. I have 2 people who have expressed some interest, and we could use some community people to step up and let me know if you're interested. I can send you the application and the paperwork.
So just really quick, it looks like a beautiful drawing. I'm not too familiar with these sorts of drawings, but it looks like natural light's a pretty important thing in the building. And then looking at the last page that you showed us, it looks like the south side, which generally has a lot of light, doesn't really have many windows. Is that where restrooms are or something? Or
on the south side, no, we have all the clear stories that allow all the high light into the classrooms themselves.
Nice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually very excited about the design, Kevin. I think you've done a great job to really give us some potential to have to look into the future. I love that the wall between the 2 rooms is flexible. That really could be a great open space for Redwood for parent nights. Right now we use the multi-purpose room, and that's a difficult room to be in. The echo is pretty intense. So I'm excited that this has some potential for more than just preschool and special ed and sensory. Those are important things. But I think it gives Redwood some flexibility, and having 2 little residential kitchens on there also gives Redwood some flexibility. So Kevin, I just want to commend you on a beautiful design and really taking the input from the staff and putting it all together. So thank you for that. I'm really excited for the summer of 22 because if it's done, then the new student drop-off will be constructed, which for Redwood, for our littlest, tiniest kiddos, to have an actual bus lane and getting them off of the street to me is going to be huge. So there's good stuff coming down the pike here, and more good news to come. So thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
And just one last quick question. So in the bathrooms, it looked like they both had ADA. They both had a washer and dryer. One of them had a shower and one didn't.
They both have showers.
They both have showers. Okay. But that'll be nice for everybody.
And if you want to get kind of a preview, I would encourage you all to visit room 311 at Fort Bragg High School. Much of this, you will see the same type of design in the bathroom and in some of the spaces. And QKA designed that building as well. So it's pretty exciting if you want to get a general idea of what to expect.
Thank you so much for your time. Your presentation was thorough and it gave me a visual.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Take care. Our next item on the agenda is the technology report.
Hello.
Welcome.
So just a plug for Ari Rule, our fearless technology director. I have to just publicly acknowledge going from 0 to 150 miles per hour when COVID hit, and doing the ordering that he's done, and getting the equipment into classrooms. And Ari, I think what really made me drop my jaw was in your report when you talked about the number of tons of equipment that you guys have unloaded and deployed. So I just want to publicly thank you and your team for the great work that you've done. I know that you guys are the first ones beaten up when things don't work, but you're also the heroes when things do work. And I don't think people quite understand the level of finesse that you've added in getting some of our equipment when the supply chain is incredibly broken. So thank you for that. So I'll shut up now, but I just want to give you that plug and say thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you. So most of everything is in the report. The report's really long. I don't want to read the whole thing. Really what I wanted to do was I kind of wanted to summarize some of the stuff to make it a lot shorter and to leave room for clarification for you or questions you have. I kind of wanted to just go down the list real quick and allow you questions, because I mean a lot happened, and I wanted to make sure everybody understood what happened. A quick thing is I kind of covered a lot. I said 2020 to 2021, and I was talking with the team about that, and it was kind of interesting because we had a summer, but we kind of felt like we didn't have a summer, so the timeline got kind of blurred for us. So I was worried I might have gone a little far back, but it makes sense. To start with, our job is to just make things work. We can explain it, we can get nerdy about it, we can go through the whole process, but at the end of the day, people are trying to do their jobs. They just need it to work. And so really, we focused on it harder this year, where normally we like to do things certain ways for certain reasons, and we kind of just got over it and said, we're going to do what we have to do. The tickets don't fully reflect that. We've talked about tickets in the past. You know, they're not really weighted. A single ticket will be install all the projectors and multimedia systems in the entire district. That's a ticket sometimes. Or sometimes fix my printer and we take care of it real fast. But really, it does matter, the number of tickets, because they're requests. It's a request for somebody to do something, and we have to respond to that and deal with it. We opened up stuff like Hangouts and Google Meet and started answering phone calls, and we got a lot more flexible and let people just hijack us. And so a lot of stuff didn't get filed. And I hate the habit, but we're okay with it right now. I mean, it's what we have to do. Let me go through this. Chromebooks. The way we handle Chromebooks changed. Years ago, I did a fancy video with a lot of music, and we were talking about going one-to-one, and we had done our little pilot. And then we finally reached that level, and we were all excited because we had one-to-one in our classrooms. We had carts, we had one-to-one. There was more Chromebooks than we had kids. It was a big deal, but then all of this happened. And we had to send them home, and that was actually last year, but it matters because it rolled over to this. What we had been talking about and kind of slow about, because we were still embracing what we had just done, was we wanted the kids to take possession of the Chromebooks. They were their Chromebooks. It's a one-to-one possession model, and that's what we wanted to roll to. But when all of this happened, we got forced into it. And we weren't quite ready, but we just did it, and we made it happen. And so that's kind of where we are right now. And we were talking about it, and we want to take, I mean, this has been a horrible year or so, but we want to take it as a boon. We want to come out stronger from all of this. And just a little plug, I mean, I got a kiddo who's here. We're doing a little bit of remote learning. Remote learning, I don't want to give my opinion on it, but I can't wait till next year. Well, hopefully that'll be better. The point being is this is tough, and maybe it's not the way it's supposed to be. But we've gained a lot of skills. We've gained a lot of adaptability, and we've advanced faster than we were supposed to advance. And I want to hold on to that. I desperately want to see everybody come back. I think all of this stuff is going to make us a lot stronger in the classroom. Some of this getting pushed against the wall, there's no PD can accomplish what some of this accomplished. It really pushed people to dig deep down and do some amazing things. I mean, I mentioned it in the report, but when I walk into a classroom, and I can brag about the inventory of how many items are in a classroom, but really what it is it's about watching it get used. I didn't imagine a teacher to use a projector and a smartboard and 2 monitors, and I figured their laptop screen would be closed. No, they're using that screen too. And they're actually using it all. It's not like they're showing it off, their friends coming over and they're showing off all of their cool tech. This is their bread and butter. And yes, it's a lot to support. We're under some heavy strain, but so have the teachers, and we didn't expect, a lot of it was we didn't really expect them to adapt the way they adapted. And to go back to tickets real quick, if we were to file them all, you would kind of think that this year would be a huge influx of tickets. And sort of, but not as much as you think. And the reason why is because so many people adapted, so many people learned, because the number of requests were overwhelming, and our team is pretty small, and we can do some amazing things, but we can't help everybody all the time. We can't teleport and just snap our fingers. So we're running around all over the place. People learn to take care of themselves to a degree, and very well. So we would get requests, and then they would actually get us back a couple minutes later and say, I got it. I took care of it. And that was a really big deal to us, because I kept expecting to see this huge, overwhelming, and just our department getting crushed. And it didn't quite happen the way I thought it would happen. And so that's really good. And like I said, I may not be the biggest fan of remote learning, but what I'm really happy about is what we pulled off through all of this, we're going to bring back, so that when we're in person, I'm very interested to see what in person is going to look like with this technology and with this equipment. I kind of jumped ahead, but it's kind of because of the Chromebooks. All the Chromebooks went out. And that's what got me into that, is that we can, but we shouldn't go back. We've accomplished so much. It doesn't make any sense to necessarily go backwards on everything. Some things, definitely. Definitely a bunch of it was Band-Aid stuff that we did to do what we had to do. But some of it we should keep. We got some real stuff that came out of this. I'm really happy about. Getting the stuff. The supply chain got mentioned. The supply chain is super broken worldwide for a lot of things. I mean, the toilet paper thing was kind of a joke, but it was a heads up to the world that wake up, the supply chain is having issues. In my world, video cards for gamers are costing like what an engine for a car would cost. I mean, it's getting nuts. They're not supposed to cost that much. I hang out on the internet a lot with other technicians from across the nation, some even international, and we talk about getting stuff. And I was laughing the other month because I'm still hearing these stories about people who ordered Chromebooks for their site and they're just now getting them, or they got them. I think the stories kind of dwindled down about a month ago, but they said they had ordered it in summer and they got it in February. And it was just, that's completely insane. We have some great vendors. We make real good friends with our vendors, and we talk really blunt. Walk into the warehouse, take a picture, send it back to me. I want to know these are real. Otherwise, I'm going to pitch you against the other guy. We've done a lot of incredible things to try to make the supply chain work. And I got to share, I'm a little nervous about the future. Depending on which way everything goes, I don't know if we can keep up this pace of constantly getting stuff. I'm going to keep working at it, and I keep fires under my vendors and let them know. But it's hard, and if things don't change, it's definitely going to get harder. And I'm worried that there's a hangover on the tech industry, manufacturing's planning, that they thought things were going to bounce back, and so they didn't manufacture enough. And the truth is when everybody started working from home, there's a lot of reasons why people are talking about why the supply chain broke down, but a whole chunk of the world started working from home and buying stuff, and so demand got ridiculous. There's a lot of reasons for it, but they're all very real. Tech sales, those guys have had a very good year. Staff laptops, let me jump to that real quick. Business laptops, business class laptops, like we normally see in companies and usually schools. they get super expensive when you want high power stuff, and things like Google Meet and a lot of the things that we were using use graphics processing, and they use some pretty high end stuff. Basically, we kind of cut a corner and went a different route, tried to think out of the box, and we bought gamer machines, and it was actually cheaper and more powerful that way. The staff have been loving it. We pulled off some tricks where we could back up your stuff while you were working and then show up, and here's your new laptop and all your stuff's there. Most of the time it went like that. Actually, I want to say about half. A lot of times we'd have to go sit with people and customize everything out for their classroom. Everybody's environment's different. And I had this dream of going and helping each teacher do everything they needed for remote learning for their classroom. And we kind of did that. We did the best we could with it. And our guys were all over the place. Every single classroom, basically, they've been in and helped customize out to a degree. It wasn't perfect. I would love to spend more time. There's so many. We had just knocked out some refurbished laptops before all of this. And it turned out really good because we're able to give them 2 laptops in a way where if you're remote teaching, your laptop goes down, it's kind of the end of the world. And so they were able to fall back. It wasn't perfect. I was a little nervous about that. And here we are giving out 2 laptops, but it was really important. And I kind of watched it save the day a few times, and that's when I felt good about it, and we kept doing it. Plus, we're able to give some laptops to staff that normally we wouldn't have the supply for. A lot of aides are getting some decent laptops. People who need them are getting decent laptops. The smart boards, I didn't take that many photos this year because we were busy. It was 5 tons, pallets, unloading trucks, power tools, rushing them across the district to classrooms. I'm really excited about those because it's going to be a big deal for in-person because they're all interactive. We put projectors across the district, but only a handful of interactive ones a couple of years back. And we kind of wished that everybody had gotten them. Oh, and normally we couldn't have afforded, this goes back to our vendors, normally we couldn't have afforded smart boards. They're roughly about $5,000 a piece, and that's why I've always shied away from them. And I told my vendor that he said, because we were going to build them. We were going to use big TVs. We were going to do it on the cheap. We were going to do it in-house. And he said, what about smart boards? And I said, I can't afford them. And he said, let's talk. And he got us down to like $1,500 or something incredible. And it made a difference. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, Ari, I want to say we could talk to you for hours because
I know.
because it is so much. And so I know the board has read your report. What are the kind of like the last highlights that you want to share? Because you've really done an incredible job.
Really, it's about the people. So E-rate and internet, we're going to be upgrading that soon. It's a deal with MCOE Consortia, the E-rate Consortium across the district. It's the other districts. We're basically upgrading our internet, more bandwidth, and we're paying less for it. The whole county's doing it. It's a big project. We're super excited. It falls in line with a lot of the things that we're trying to do with our infrastructure right now, planning for the future. I guess the last thing is really just a thanks to all the staff, teachers, everybody at the DO, just about everybody. Chromebooks aren't just our problem anymore. I mean, I have 3 techs for the entire district, and there was no way we were going to crumble. And teachers, site secretaries, I saw a couple of DO people on their knees unloading Chromebooks and handing them out. They deal with Chromebooks regularly at the DO. The whole district has kind of taken ownership and chipped in, and they have their own workloads, their own stuff that they're dealing with. They're having to adjust. It's tough times for them as well. And they made adjustments for us, and they did it for tech. And so that's a really big deal to me. I just wanted to say thanks for that. Without them, we didn't do this alone. Not a chance.
So one thing we did do that was we got out there a little bit ahead of the game, which is why we got our Chromebooks in a reasonable amount of time. There were a lot of districts that waited until their county came up with their guidance, and we said, no, these kids are going to be at home. We got to do this now. And so we jumped out ahead, and Ari beat up his vendors, and we were able to get them here. And the other thing that, for me is 18 years ago when I started on the board, we were nowhere with technology. I would go to CSBA and look at all the wonderful things that were going on around the state, and we were nowhere. And it was a little disheartening. And so to be where we are now is really quite incredible. And Ari and his team have gotten us here, and it feels good to be a little bit ahead of the game rather than behind it now, because we're seeing that because we had the infrastructure built in that we did, we were able to move into this mode. Not easily, but maybe a little more easily than some districts.
Well, good job. Thank you, Ari. What do you want to?
Questions? Or you can corner me some other time. But if you have questions about what we did, where it's going, you can corner me anytime.
I just want to say, Ari, if you guys weren't as prepared and as knowledgeable and talented as you were, this distance learning we would have fallen flat on our face. And I think every kid and every family who is in this district, is grateful for the work that you guys did. And I just thanks. I know it's a lot of work and a lot of frustration, coordinating all these devices and all these people that computers are kind of foreign to them, and internet and all this stuff, and to see an entire district on distant learning, from the teachers that have to figure out how to present something to the kids who have to figure out how to watch it. Kids interacting with one another online and through their classroom, and breaking into groups and taking breaks and sharing files. I mean, all of this stuff doesn't go unnoticed, and you guys made it happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Just to throw it out there again, like he's saying, the teachers having to adapt and all the technologies that they're using. I mean, it is unprecedented. It's a big deal. And yeah, we were able to rush and do some insane stuff to make it all happen. But I mean, even the families and kids out there, nobody was really ready for this. And the adaptation that they made to embrace it, even if it's for a little while, is a pretty amazing thing. And I'm super thankful for that. It could have gone a lot worse, and a lot of people tried. And thank you.
Mary.
Thank you, Ari.
I just wanted to say one quick thing, other than the fact that you're amazing and you have never rested on your laurels, and we appreciate it greatly. Kept us where we're at. I'd love to hear more, not right now because I know we don't have time, but I really want to hear more about the broadband and what's happening with the internet speeds and all that. I don't know if we can hear it later, another meeting, or maybe you could send us something, but that sounds really, really exciting. Thanks.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for your time and supporting our teachers and kids. You guys really are amazing, all the hurdles you jumped through.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next item on our agenda is 8.6. It's the California Schools Employee Association report. Do we have a report, Renee?
No, we have no report from CSEA this time.
Okay. 8.7, we have Fort Bragg District Teachers Association report. Sarah?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to follow Ari. I will just say he is remarkable, and his team, and is, so approachable for all levels of knowledge in, he really meets the teachers and all the staff where they are. And, you never feel like you're asking him a dumb question. So we really appreciate you, Ari. Thank you for all the work you and your team have done. So for FBDTA, I just have a brief report to let you know that, teachers are certainly feeling the celebratory feeling of the students back on campus, and that has been a really positive experience. The the phase-in for the elementary sites, I think, was a really great logistical process. It was really calm. The youngest students had a chance to adjust to the new sites that first week, and then everyone else joining them the next week really worked out well. The challenge of the concurrent teaching is definitely something that is present as far as seeing, having students in person and then distant at the same time, and trying to make sure that they're all getting the best of you and the best instruction that you can. And so that, that's a current challenge that we're working through, and with the support of our tech team, again, trying to figure out the best ways to continue our to make sure that the students are still receiving the best instruction that we can give them in this circumstance. And then teachers are also weighing the students that remain fully remote, and making sure that now that the teacher's attention is split with in-person students, making sure that those students don't receive any less. And so that's been a struggle with the transition. But I reached out to our site reps through FBDTA and asked for some updates about how things were going at their sites, and got some really positive reports. So at Alt Ed, they just had a successful exhibition week, and they already have several students who are in mentorships and internships at their site, and that's through that big picture learning program that they're implementing. At the elementary sites, teachers are reporting about the closeness and the relationships that they've been able to develop with families this year. That has been a positive aspect of the situation. And at Dana Gray, I just am struck by just the calm and positive feeling amongst teachers, students, and it just feels like a really positive experience so far. At the middle school, they are really excited about spring sports happening, and I was over there for Little League, but was able to see the middle school play, and it does just make you feel good to see the kids out there. Their library is getting an overhaul, and they're working on having student choice in the books that are being selected for their library, which is really, really great. And then Jason Godek, who's our art teacher there, his words were, the main thing is how lovely it has just been to have students on campus. So I thought that was a nice way to end that. So coming up on April 22nd, our bargaining team will meet with the district for a more regular round of negotiations. We've been meeting, Becky and I meet every week, and discuss just what's going on in the district, and really have worked hard to be, have open communication with each other. And sometimes we speak more than just the once a week, but on the 22nd is when the bargaining team will meet with the district. And there's only one article that we're going to be looking at, and it's the salary and benefits. So the goal will be to work together to see what we can do to improve the salary schedule moving forward. And we'll just continue, as far as COVID goes, continue to meet with the district regularly and work toward getting back to the goal of students on campus full time, and we'll keep working on it till we get there.
Great. Thank you, Sarah, for reporting this month. And I think this is your first year as this position. What a year to raise your hand. And no one wants to do this again, during the pandemic, but thank you for being the voice for your unit. And I just can't imagine trying to instruct, in your head, you've normally have your 6 or 7 hour day, and trying to condense it down and then have all of the tech and visual and, balancing all that. I think that even if you had all the time in the world, you're never gonna have enough time, and just, I appreciate the report and totally get the challenges of simultaneous teaching and just the we're all in a really awkward, we've got parameters, and so it's you just have to do the best you can do. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent items. So I don't think we have anything to pull. And this is these are non-controversial, and we do it in one motion. So do we have a motion to approve the consent items? Mary? You're muted.
Yep, I'll move that we approve the consent items.
In a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So moved for the consent items approved. And I know this isn't really good timing, but we've been going since 5. Does anyone need to take a quick 5-minute break? And then
I would.
Mary and Jerry.
Yeah.
So I apologize for those waiting for the action items, but let's take a 5-minute break. Just mute and
So that's one of those items that we have to do right now. And we do this every year so that we can declare a need, so that if we hire someone with a pre-intern permit, this is kind of our way of the board acknowledging that we have a need for educators.
Okay.
It's
Mary,
so we can hire.
Sorry.
No, it's so we can hire people with pre-intern, provisional intern permits, and so that we can hire short-term staff permits. So these are people who aren't fully credentialed. So we do this every year.
So Mary, since the resolution is short, if you could just read that, and then we can take a motion.
Okay, resolution number 21-02, in the matter of declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Whereas the governing board must declare the district's need for fully qualified educators based on the previous year's actual needs and projections of enrollment. And whereas the governing board must submit the declaration of need to the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing annually in anticipation of the need to hire individuals who are either scheduled to complete initial preparation requirements within 6 months, or candidates who are qualified to participate in an approved internship program in the region of the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board, by submitting this resolution, is certifying that there are an insufficient number of certificated persons who meet the district's employment needs. Date adopted April 8th, 2021.
May I have a motion?
I'll move we approve.
In a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 10.2, Interagency Agreement.
So this is with the Mendocino Coast Children's Fund. They are working with all of their partners to shore up agreements so that there's a mutual understanding of when information is shared and how that's going to be disseminated, and also making sure that we're all kind of abiding in the same way. And I just wanted to reassure the board with this MOU. I did have legal look at it. There isn't a problem with it. But that we don't share information without the explicit permission. Mendocino Coast Children's Fund has done a great job of helping our families and really providing support.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, a motion to approve?
So moved.
Does Kathy like the second?
I second.
Very good. Roll call, please.
You're muted, Renee.
Sorry. Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
And Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item is the Fort Bragg Unified School District COVID-19 Plan for Athletics.
So this has been provided to Dr. Corin and the Mendocino County Public Health Division. They have approved this. We are bringing this to you as a board to approve, really as a matter of formality, so that there is an ability for our public to have input, for you to have a discussion with it, and also for you to ask us any questions you may have with this. Mr. Triplett is online to answer any questions. He is well versed in this. So I'm not concerned about this. Like I said, it has been approved by Dr. Corin. This is how we are operating athletics at this time, both at Fort Bragg Middle School and at Fort Bragg High School. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to ask questions.
So I just wanted to clarify, the testing is available for a current tier sport, but if you're out of tier color sport, then that's the cadence that's required. And who's administering it? And is there a dashboard to go with it? Just wondering those kinds of questions.
Hopefully I don't lose you. I've been coming in and out. Can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome, Mr. Triplett.
Okay. So who would be administrating? It'd be probably either the administrators or Eve, who has been been trained in it. We could also train the coaches as well. But it's really simple to do the testing we have. But you are correct. It is the sports that are out of tier, and really the only sports right now that are out of tier are the indoor sports: basketball, volleyball, and wrestling. Everything else is approved right now without needing to test.
And those sports have started, but they'll have to have a permission slip, because that's what I was unclear on, because the current sports have already signed. And
I missed sorry,
because it says there's a consent form, but that's something that the county didn't prepare. Do we have something that we're providing to tell families about the cadence testing?
We haven't sent anything out to families yet because no one's really asked for it, but we do have a waiver form. And there's some that we could copy. I think Ukiah has shared them with our athletic director, and I think CIF has given some as well.
So we have a permission form for testing. So typically what's happened right now is that families have come to our windows with their kiddos and they have requested testing. That's how we've addressed that. And then when they're there, we have the families grant us permission. With the athletes, it's part of the athletic agreement that they have. And so the teams before a contest, if they were out of tier, then we had testing, which is what happened with soccer at the middle school. But right now, for instance, softball is within their tier. What am I missing, Mr. Triplett?
That are everybody's in their tier right now. So there's not any sport.
Okay.
There's no sports that we're doing right now that are out of tier. I mean, the only ones that we're thinking about it is volleyball and basketball, and right now they're deciding whether they want to or not. But they're not competing or practice. They're just doing conditioning.
Scott?
So, Bruce, what sports are happening right now in middle and high schools?
Middle school, I'm not sure. I think it's just soccer and softball. That's the only ones I know. For high school, we have softball, baseball, track, tennis, golf is starting up, and I think that's it.
So do we have any other teams in our league who are able to travel to play, or are we just kind of playing Mindo or something, or what's happening?
No, we've been participating. So I think most of the only one that's kind of questionable was St. Helena, because they're not the adjacent county. But I think now that they moved up, that we might be allowed to play them as well.
Okay, thank you.
And my only other comment, and I know this isn't going to be helpful, but this is the problem with COVID. It's so inconsistent, because any family could go to Costco, go to Santa Rosa, go visit, grandma in a different state, or have a sleepover, and there's no cadence of testing for them. And so I don't like that it's not very equitable, and there could be a stigma with it, but I know that's not it's not your doing, but that's, I just wish that the world was a little more consistent with the COVID, because it's creating barriers that I think that we have screening involved, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I know this stems from a lawsuit in San Diego to allow people to do sports in the purple tier, like the professionals, and that's, where it's coming from. But, and I only had one other question, was the transportation. How is that a barrier if someone doesn't have a ride? How do we do that?
It's been a struggle for sure. I think parents are driving their own kids most of the time, and coaches have permission, with up to it's 3 kids basically, if they're taking a van or something with windows down, masks up. But it's been a struggle.
Is it kind of like the buses, like one a row or something? Is that because it did say that in the agreement, but it didn't spell it out, so I don't know what the bus rules are.
Yeah, I think buses. You could probably know more than that, but I think they go kitty corner.
It's 1 student per row, and it's kitty corner. So if one kid's in the window, the other kid's on the aisle. Window, aisle, window, aisle, window, aisle.
Bruce, do you know anything about swimming, or now that we're in the orange tier, is there any movement on getting kids back in the pool that are part of the team?
Well, that was the difficulty is I think our facility, they weren't going to open until we were in the yellow, I think. And so we do have some swimmers that are driving to Willett, so they're kind of swimming unattached. They still represent, I guess, Fort Bragg, but there's a few of them that we gave them kind of permission to swim over there. So they are competing. There's a few of them, but not many.
So Bruce, thank you for getting this together and supporting sports at the high school, because I know it's been a really positive outing for kids. So I appreciate your efforts. Does anyone else have any questions, or do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the FUSD COVID-19 plan for athletics.
Second?
I'll second. And this is really great, Bruce. It's very uplifting.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
And Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Okay, so moved. The next item is 10.4 hybrid learning plan for preschool through 6th grade.
So what's interesting, at the time of this report, Renee and I prepared the board report on Friday, and we publish it on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we went into the orange tier. So where does that leave us as a school district? Where are we going with the orange tier? That's the hot ticket question. So for us right now, we are continuing in hybrid mode. We have 8 weeks of school remaining after we return from spring break. Our hope is to always have more students on campus for longer periods of time until we get back to a regular school day. So right now, what we are doing is we are looking at, can we put in more desks in our classroom with 4 feet of distance between chair to chair? What does that look like if we do it 3 feet? So we're starting right now with that internal investigation. We started this earlier, thinking we had more time, and then all of a sudden we were in the orange tier. And the goal was to try and get that information prior to spring break. So for right now, what I can tell you is that we have a survey out for families at the high school. And if you have a high school age child, please check your parent squared posts. Please take the link that's on the website. Yes?
So this item's just for preschool 6.
Oh, sorry, preschool to 6. So,
yeah,
so we'll talk. Thank you for correcting me. So preschool to 6, right now, we are measuring the classrooms to ensure that, we are measuring the classrooms so that we can gather data to figure out how many desks we can fit in the room with new measurements, meaning going to 4 feet, going to 3 feet. Then we are going to look at the number of students that are attending in person right now to see if we can drop the AB days and just go to 4 days of in person with the current kids. I hope that makes sense. I won't know that until we know how many desks we can fit into a room. So we're working on that. Scott.
Why 4 days and not 5?
We haven't, we just kept that distance learning just for the kiddos who are on full-time distance learning so that they have that full day of instruction. Right now, the kids on distance are missing out, to be quite honest with you. It's hard doing distance and in person at the same time, and they're not getting the same level of instruction. So that Wednesday is really to ensure that our distance kids also get that fuller day. It's something we can discuss, though. It's not off the table by any means.
Does anyone else have any questions? Or because I just have a couple of questions for the board, just if anyone has any comments. No. Well, the question I have is, why wouldn't we go to 3 feet if every agency, the federal, the state, the county says we can do 3 feet? And I don't know what shape the classrooms are, but I mean, I'm probably summing it up. I mean, if you can fit X amount of kids in there now, and you you double the space or shorten the space, you think you could fit that same amount of kids in there without having, I don't know, have you surveyed, has there been a survey with the kids or at least the data of the attendance?
Not yet with the K-6 kids. And so it's not just as easy when you're dealing with physical furniture to say, okay, well, now that we're going from 6 feet to 3 feet, then we can just double the space. We can almost do that, but you still have to compensate for the size of the chair as well. So it's not just straight math. If it was straight math, then it would be really on a coordinate plane and we would be talking about dots. Does that make sense? So it's not as easy just to say there's 1,000 square feet, we're going to divide it by 6, and this is what we're going to get. It doesn't necessarily work like that. So there are other barriers in the classroom. So we need to do a good job of measuring. We were not prepared to go into the orange chairs as quickly as we did. So we are working on that. Why not 3 feet? Why not 4 feet? We need to look and see what we can do. And the reason I say that is if we can get the number of desks into the room that we can get with 4 feet, then we want to do 4 feet, a little more distance better than a little less. However, if we need the 3 feet to get the number of desks in the room that we need to get, then we'll go with 3. But for right now, we have to look at the preliminary data and see where we're at. I apologize. I was caught off guard with this. I knew it was coming, but when I looked at the numbers, I just didn't expect it to happen that quickly, to be honest with you. So we are working on it. I am asking the principals to move quickly on this. I will be meeting with our bargaining units to make sure that we're ready for the next stage and people are feeling safe. So I just need a little time. It's 100% my fault.
Scott?
So fault and blame. I mean, I appreciate that, but definitely no blame, no fault anywhere with this. We're in a new realm and we're doing the best we can. I know that there are there are several classrooms right now that I've heard of where there are so few kids in group A and so few kids in group B that you could actually combine them and keep the 6 feet. I mean, there's enough desks and this is, I haven't seen this with my own eyes. So this is a scenario that I've heard about. Is there any reason why there are some cases we just can't, on a class by class basis, combine A and B and have those kids go 4 days a week?
That's what we're looking at, Scott.
Okay.
It's not as easy as just saying that because at the elementary level, we have more participation. So at the K-6 level right now, I don't know if we could pull that off with the current number of desks in the room. I know we can't do that at Redwood. So we need to look at remeasuring and seeing how many desks we can actually put in the room and what that looks like, and then determining if it's possible. So we're not there yet. We will absolutely want to move there, and that is the next step.
Yeah, and that's just the barrier could be. I mean, families I think like the flexibility. So if your child just wants to stay cozy at home, they can do the distant learning, and I think that's kind of been. It's a barrier because there's the flexibility of doing in person or in person. Like even if you did a survey, you may not get total commitment of in person. But I feel like if the folks that have committed to in person now, they should be going, every day. Is my feeling that they've committed and that they're not, they don't have both feet, in it where they want to be flexible with the distant learning because they might, for whatever reason, and do the 2-day in person. And then someone might just truly want the distant learning, for health reasons, because every agency is saying it's safe. So I don't know how we can not honor that because I'm not a doctor, and I don't think anyone on the staff is. So I think I don't know if anyone else, but I think whoever's been in person now should be able to go.
And just realize there's still a lot of anxiety with all of this, and what I mean by that is that. I can't tell you the number of people who say, Becky, are you giving us another change? Welcome to my world. Every week is a new week. And the only thing that I think we can guarantee at this point is that there will be changes. I don't expect that what we're doing right now is going to carry us through to June 11th. And unfortunately, we have many people who say, hey, can we just hold on and just let us do it this way because we're finally getting into a groove. I totally appreciate that and understand it. It is hard to do what our teachers are doing. I get it. What I'm looking at is not necessarily making it harder, but making it so that there's fewer transitions between students. If we can fit the desks in the room and we can get our kiddos there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, that is the next logical step. And that still allows us to give the devotion to our distance kids to give them the education that they've been used to from the beginning. So if there's no perfect answer, and I guarantee you anything that I say on the screen, there are at least 50 people who are angry right now. I get it. What I am looking forward to is June 15th, and I'm doing one of these, crossing my fingers and hoping that our hospitalization rates continue to stay low, vaccinations for COVID-19 continue to increase, so that this tiered system goes away and we have our students back in August. That is the golden prize right there. What we are doing to get to June 11th is we just need to stumble through it and as much as possible, increase our student attendance so that our kids can be with us. What I am very fearful of, and I will be honest with you, is that we are setting up our kids to not understand what it means to go for a full day. August is going to be a heavy lift. It's going to be a heavy lift for all of us. It is going to be a heavy lift for the employees. It's going to be a heavy lift for our students. And I am concerned that if we don't come back in some kind of a fuller fashion, that heavy lift in August is going to be almost insurmountable. And so I worry about the kids' psyche, our staff psyche. I want to make sure that we are honoring their hard work and at the same time preparing them for a realistic August. I want to make sure that our kids understand what it means to go to school for more than a few hours so that they have the stamina to continue. This is a difficult situation. So we are now in orange. Can we take what we're doing and take away the AB days and just have in-person Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday? We need to look at that. And there's a process that I have to follow to go with it. I can't just rip off the Band-Aid and say, here we go. We have to have some things in place. So even if everybody agreed right now and said, yes, let's do it, I still couldn't do it. I need to have certain things in place. I need to make sure that both of our bargaining units agree, and it's not their fault. I didn't fully prepare for this. So here we are. I need a little bit of time. I'm hoping to have more answers for you by the time we come to our April 20th and potentially April 20th, potentially April 22nd special meetings. So we can put this on there so you can get a report from me, but we are trying to move. So for now, all I can tell you about this action item is there's really no action to take. I don't have anything to give you. And so you can table this until the next time we meet again and still keep it on the board agenda.
I appreciate your efforts, and I want to honor those that want to go in person. And I think that the shorter day that it is now, the 3 hours, they might be holding out for a full day, but we're never going to go to a 6 or 7 hour day in this school year. So I think people may need to realize that as well, that even if we went to a 4 day a week, it might not be to the advantage of the families because of the if they have to work, or what I'm saying, it's not always just a safety reason why they're not in person. It might also be the duration of the day, the length of it. But I do want to table this to the next meeting and potentially have it on a special meeting or need to do a special meeting if there's something that, as soon as possible that we can get in-person kids that want to be there every day. Moving on to the next item is 10.5, hybrid learning plan for grades 7 through 12. So this one.
Now I can talk about it. So the high school does have a survey that is out right now. And if you have a high school kiddo, please take a moment to complete that survey. Excuse me. What the high school is looking at is exactly what you said earlier, Diana and Scott, that we have so few kids attending. Is it possible to combine A and B days and just allow the in-person kids to attend 4 days a week? That's what we're trying to figure out. The difficulty is that we need to know that if we open it up to 4 days a week, is that going to change the number of students in attendance? If we have 3/4 of the high school say, yes, you open up 4 days a week, I'm there, we won't be able to accommodate 3/4 of the high school to go 4 days a week with desks even 3 feet apart. So that's some of the issue there. So we need the data to be able to figure it out. Right now, what is disappointing to me is that many of our families have not completed the survey. And it could be for a myriad of reasons. It could be because they're unsure. It could be because they haven't received it. It could be because they're still having discussions about it. So with that, until we have that data, there's not much that we can do to figure out if we can offer it. What I've told Mr. Triplett and Mrs. Alexander is this, that by the time we come back from spring break, we're going to take the data that we're going to have, the people who've committed at that point, if it is something that we can pull off with even 6 feet of distance, then the people who completed the survey, we are going to allow them to come back 4 days a week. If you haven't completed the survey and you change your mind, then what's going to happen is you're going to be put on a wait list. So I can't wait around for 500 people to do what I asked them to do. I'm not trying to be rude about it. We only have 8 weeks of school left when we come back. So if we want to move on this, we need to move on this. So with that, please, if you have a high school age child, please go to the website and complete the survey. If you would like to have a voice, just on a sidebar, we're having the students complete the survey as well, because we want to make sure that we at least give the kids a voice in this too. Mommies and daddies and families, hear me loud and clear. Parents always have the last word on this. So if we have a student who says, oh, heck no, I'm staying home, and the mom and dad say, oh, heck yes, you're going back, guess who wins every time? Is the parents. So I don't want parents to think that we are doing this to try and eliminate their voice. We're doing this because we need to make sure that we at least have some pulse of what our high school kids want and what our families want. So with that, please go and complete the survey. I know this is coming down the pike, and I'll have more for you to report. I will have more to report to you after spring break.
And what about grades 7 and 8?
7 and 8, we're doing the same thing. We're first looking at the furniture, because we think right now we can do this with grades 7 and 8 based on just furniture rearrangement. So we're looking at that first. Mary?
Quick question. So I was wondering, after watching the news and seeing that that Pfizer is approved for, or asked for, emergency approval for, I believe it's 16-year-olds, or no, younger than 16. And then I read that they're thinking that all kids 12 and on up will have that option starting before school starts. So I'm just wondering if Dr. Corin or Public Health, if anybody has indicated, once we start getting students vaccinated, would we be able to go back to just a normal situation where we don't have to be measuring and whatnot?
So right now, Mary, the plan is if the governor releases the tiered system on June 15th, we're going back with no measuring.
No measuring.
The caveat there, though, is masking.
Okay.
That masking is still going to be required, and the words that were used is in the foreseeable future. So for right now, we are looking at returning, but the masking requirement would still be maintained. As far as vaccines go, I had a conversation with Lucretia Renteria today, who is really one of the champions in our community about vaccinating our seniors. And that's a different discussion, so that we could look at graduation and getting their families also vaccinated. So that's our next big push. We will be putting out some communication about that tomorrow.
Okay. I guess that's another question, that if we had 16 and on up being able to be vaccinated soon, could we hold bigger classes for just those grade levels? I know we have lots of mixed age grade classes too, but.
Well, right now, I think we need to follow the guidance that we have. We don't have a vaccine available. Right now, the governor has said that if on June 15th, hospitalization remains low, vaccinations are still up, that the tiered system will go away. If the tiered system is gone, that means the distancing, the blueprint for a safer economy, that's gone. That's been dismantled. If it gets dismantled on June 15th, we go back in August. Right. Desks are going to be in classrooms 5 days a week.
I was thinking more this year. If we got them, if they were getting vaccinated soon.
Remember with the Pfizer and the Moderna, it takes 2 doses and they're 4 weeks apart. We are working on getting the senior class vaccinated. They are the first priority right now.
Right.
And then from there, we'll look at the 16 and 17-year-olds. Senior classes first, though.
Right. Okay.
So I just had some questions about the survey. I don't know if we have any results, but the no response or the lack of response isn't like normal for our district, and it's especially wouldn't be too abnormal for this survey, because it says if you don't respond, they're just going to put you in distant learning. So to me, that was almost an offering of, if I don't say anything, I'll just go into distant learning. But we've been doing electronic modes like Parent Square. If we had done this a year ago and no response, I'd be kind of worried, but that was a technical, tech problem. But given that families are getting communication by Parent Square, I just don't want to wait and longer waiting for these responses that are never going to come forth.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
And I think what I'm hearing from you is that this is getting more expedited than the other, than preschool through 6, given that there is a survey already and that you'd like to honor kids sooner than later. Because I think the transition for older kids is harder with, 2 days and then trying to talk your child to get out of bed and go to school the other 3 days. So I appreciate this getting pushed a little bit faster, given that the surveys are already out. But I hate to hold out for no more data.
I'll have more information for you when we return after the break.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we will table this item as well for the next meeting or special for 10.5. Renee.
There is a new comment in the board comments. So
thank you. And may you read that, actually, since you've got it?
Would you like me to read it, Renee?
Sure.
It's from Beth Pine. If the Wednesday is the only day the students get quality distance learning education, why not have distance learners in the afternoon and go to 5 days a week and in person in the morning? So that's another model that we can look at. I think the difficulty is when we tried to do the AM PM shift, there was an outcry from our families of not wanting the PM shift. So just know that we've looked at several different models, and we can continue exploring more models. We have 8 weeks to go. My hope and prayer, just being very crystal clear here, is that on June 15th, the tiered system is dismantled. It goes away. We are back on August 1. Anything we do right now is for the last 8 weeks of school. All instructional time is valuable. Let me be clear on that as well. All instructional time is valuable. We want to make sure that we get through the next 8 weeks in a fashion that we can get through the next 8 weeks. So all instructional time is valuable. I'm hoping for the dismantling of the tier system come June 15th.
Okay.
Recognizing that hope is not a great strategy.
No, and sooner than later, to have people that want to be in person more days, for sure. So those 2 items will be tabled, 10.4 and 10.5. And 10.6 is our next item, Summer School Incentive Plan.
So we have AB 86 grant funds that we need to prepare a plan. And we have to submit that plan to MCOE by June 1st. Part of these dollars can be used for an extended school year, to provide summer activities for academic learning loss. So right now, what I would like to propose is I'm looking at different districts in our county and what they're doing for summer school. I think we have the potential here to offer something for summer school that would be, number one, fully in person. I think we have the ability to get creative and say, hey, staff, I know you are tired and you're burnt. I get it. I see it all over the district. I think we have an opportunity for summer to be something different. It could be part academic. It could be part learning camps. It could be proposals where teachers could say, you know what, I don't mind teaching summer school. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a camp where potentially I'm going to take a group of 10 kids and we are going to hike to Otis Johnson Park every day. We are going to investigate the bugs in the plant life, and we're going to do little terrariums and get involved in the nature that's in our own backyard. And I'm making this up on the fly, so please know that. I am hoping that the board would support some type of a summer school incentive so that our employees who are burnt could look at this in a different light, not just an 8:30 to 12:30 gig with kids, but an 8:30 to 12:30 gig doing something different with kids, but it's all in person. And so I'm asking the board to consider to approve an incentive so that our employees will get paid their wage, but any employee who works in the summer to provide extra outside of their contract for students to have a summer opportunity, that we incentivize that with a $100 a day bonus. There are 20 days in summer school, that would be a $2,000 bonus. If you only work 10 days, that would be a $1,000 bonus. But right now, I've taken the data several times to say, hey, who wants to teach summer school? We don't even have enough people who have inquired for summer school for us to cover our requirements for extended school year and for the grant that we have with Migrant Ed. So I'm hoping we can use some of these funds to incentivize a new reimagined summer for this summer only. It's not going to happen every summer. We won't have the money to do it. But allowing staff to get creative and give us a proposal. Like, I could see potentially a teacher saying, I'm going to do knitting. I'm going to have kids come in and I'm going to teach them to knit. We may sit outside, but we're going to provide them the materials. And when they're done, they're going to have some type of knitting hat, something. I can see another teacher say, you know what? I'm going to teach kids to play disc golf. That's what we're going to do. We're going to be outside. We are going to play disc golf. I can see another teacher saying something with science experiments or art or music or our beautiful gardens. We have a myriad of things that we could do. The sky is almost the limit, but allowing some flexibility and some freedom for our teaching staff to say, you know what, I will be with kids this summer in person. I will be with them for 10 days or 20 days. And this is what I would like to do. And then we publish a catalog for our parents so that they can register their kiddo if they like. We also know that there are some kids saying, I don't care if you take me to Disneyland. I'm not going back. So we understand that, but having some type of a different experience for our kiddos so that we get them with person-to-person interaction. Our kids don't know how to talk to each other right now. They are apart, they are fully masked, and they are on a screen. And even now, as I'm looking at all of you differently, you can't tell who I'm looking at. So we need to start bringing kids back together. I am seriously concerned about August and what that is going to look like for our educators and for our kiddos. So I would like to use some of our AB 86 funds to incentivize summer school, provide a more creative approach to summer so that our students can be with adults, our adults can be with students, anybody who works, and I'm talking food services, aides, teachers, we give them all the same incentive. You get your hourly rate, whatever your hourly rate is, so you will be paid 5 hours a day to be with kiddos, and then on top of that, $100 a day bonus. It makes summer worthwhile. And if you want to split it with someone and you each do 10 days, great. The proposal right now is for summer that we offer 2-week sessions and 4-week sessions. We could also throw in there, if we get the teaching staff to pull it off, doing some reading intervention perhaps, or some math intervention perhaps. And there may be some kiddos who just need to be outside. We live in a beautiful area. I think we have some potential here. So I'm asking the board to consider an incentive, yes.
So is this just for Fort Bragg Unified staff?
Yes.
And it could be
yes.
Clarifying, because I don't know if it normally is opened up to just anyone, because you might get some callings, I don't know.
We're going to start with our team and our staff. And if we still don't have enough people to work for the summer, then we'll post it to the outside world. And those folks who have been loyal to the district and have served as substitute teachers, this can be accomplished with an emergency credential.
Thank you for clarifying that. Mary?
I just wanted to say this is a brilliant idea. I love it. I think it'll be so great for the kids with their social emotional needs right now. I mean, that's exactly what they need. So kudos to you and whoever else came up with it with you. And I'd say incentivize away. Get it going.
Wendy Boyce brought this to my attention by listening to Holly McLaughlin, the superintendent from Potter Valley. who said, I want kids doing yoga. I want kids outside. And I said, Holly, it's brilliant. She said, we're going to have a catalog and try and do as much as we can. The AVID teachers are already asking, hey, Becky, can we do something with kids this summer with AVID? Heck yeah, you can. Just let me get through the board meeting. So I think we have some huge possibility here. And also without that burden of, here's the curriculum you need to get done. Here's the behavior you need to address. If kids are going to be able to choose what they want to do and have the ability to just kind of be free and be kids for the summer, I say we do it. So I'll start.
Thank you, Becky. And I think it would be fun for the staff too, because they won't have those directives. They're going to be doing what they love to do without all of the, the checking the boxes off. So I think it could be a dual thing for everyone's mental health, really, for staff and kids. If are there other comments, Scott?
Just, it seems like we're combining 10.6 and 10.7, so I really just want to focus on 10.6 for right now, because I have a separate question for the next item. But the $100, yeah. So thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the $100 a day incentive for summer school.
I second.
Summer school.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
And Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Thank you.
So 10.7 is the summer supplemental summer options.
And thank you, Scott, for keeping me on track. Sometimes I see summer school and I just go right into it. So as stated previously, the option right here is to expand it outside of academics. You see an application that I included in the board packet so that you can see truly how vague this can be. All of the proposals, if you approve for us to go in this direction, will come to the administrative team, and then we are going to determine if it's allowable or not allowable. And let me explain why. If someone says, hey, we are going to be climbing trees all summer and the goal is to get to 100 feet above the ground, I'm going to say our insurance carrier is not going to allow it. Thank you for playing. Next. So that's why it has to come to us. Is it allowable? Is what you're asking allowable? So sometimes it's difficult to say yes. If someone may say, I'm going to teach kids to surf, I'm going to have to say no. I can't get kids in the water with a school activity, even though I think surfing would be so much fun. So that's the difficulty, is that I understand that our staff is super creative. I can see things coming through that would be wonderfully miraculous, but we may be inhibited by our insurance carrier. So know that. So it's not that we are saying no because we don't like you. We may have to say no. So you have in front of you the potential application for this, Scott.
So thank you. A couple questions. Looking at the application, I think there definitely needs to be some sort of approval on this application. I also think that it'd be good to know how many kids can join that one activity. And if it's going to be a 2-week thing, is it going to be the first 2 weeks or the second 2 weeks? I'm just thinking of things that can help clarify any confusion. But I really like the idea of this having to get some sort of approval, and I'm curious to know who's going to provide those approvals.
Me. So what I envision right now is that we will shore up this application because I already thought of budget. This is not going to be a blank check, but I could see very easily if someone says, I want to teach knitting, can I get knitting needles and some yarn? Well, we could figure that piece out. But it's not going to be a blank check. Let me just say that loud and clear so that Wendy doesn't go into cardiac arrest. Sorry, Wendy.
That may be something else to add on there is, are funds needed? If so, what's the estimated amount? I assume the AB 86 would help pay for some of that stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's great.
And I'll look at the timeline on the 2 weeks and the 4 weeks so that we could shore that up as well.
Oh, if we were ready to move on it, I'd like to move that we approve. Item 10.7.
Is there a second?
No second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Matson?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
And Trustee Paoli?
Yes. So the next item is the Administrative Regulation 3311.2 Lease and Leaseback Contract. This is a policy.
Yes. So there are two different options for going to bid on projects. One is a leaseback, and the other is, I forget the name of it. Jerry might remember, but because of where we are in this process, we looked at our leaseback AR and BP, and they were a little out of date, or we may not even have had them, because for a while the state was saying, yeah, no, we don't like this method of doing this. So the powers that be came up with an allowable way to do it that works for, that is fair to everyone and still has safeguards for going through a process. And the reason we're doing this one right now is because we're doing the AR first because we don't have one, and we need to have that in place in order to adopt that method for this project. We've talked with QKA and other people and determined that this is probably the best way for us to go. It gives us a little bit of flexibility, but still keeps us within the rules.
Is the purpose of that to save money because you're using the same contractor, or what is the benefit of having the, a contractor doing two different types of work?
It's mostly the process of selecting them, because they still have to all meet certain criteria, but there's a little more flexibility in how they're chosen and how the bid process works. So it makes it a little less time consuming to go through.
So it sounds like you save time. And then if after we approve this, we could choose not to go this route. Like if we find, that it's just because we're doing.
Except that the next item is the resolution to approve using that method, which is why these two items are next to each other.
Right, but it's not selecting a contractor. It's just giving us the method.
No. Just the process that we will use to do that.
Jerry?
Didn't we avoid this on the high school?
We did, because at that time it was when these were being abused, and so all of the oversight at the state level have gone through the process, cleaned it up, made it look like they want it to have those safeguards in place, because it was being badly abused before, is my understanding, and so now there is language that is acceptable and a process that's acceptable, that is fair and balanced and not going to get people in trouble. But that's why we avoided that then, was because there were some questions about some of the, not in our case necessarily, but the overall perception of the propriety of it. And so those things have been tightened up in this language for the AR we're looking at now.
Thanks, Wendy.
So I just have a really basic question. What's a leaseback contract?
So basically you lease the property to the contractor, who then leases it back to you when they're done. It's a paper thing only. There's not really any money involved, and it frees up the control of some of the parts of the project for them to do without having to go completely out to bid for every single piece, because they essentially control the property for that period of time. And so you can understand where the potential pitfalls and the appearance of things not being done above board could come in. But like I said, these new ARs have addressed all of that and tightened all of those things up based on what state regulations are.
And that's where it's important to have a really good project manager representing the school district.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, I'm just wondering if this will help prevent the problems we had at the high school with the, is that what we're, okay.
And that's what we're going
yes
for.
And no.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the high school was a whole other issue with the contractor.
Right.
I don't know that the form of the contract we used had anything to do with that, to be honest.
Okay.
And Wendy, just to clarify, the leaseback would give us a little bit more control too about who we choose.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The flexibility over the selection process and the bid process, rather than being, it just gives us a little more leeway that way.
More choices for a contractor potentially, because we're willing to do this. And what's the normally the duration of that lease? Is it a year or is it 6 months?
It's the length of the contract. It's the length of however the contract is for the.
Well, I was curious
building.
of how long that average is.
Well, it's not an average. It's how long it takes them to build the buildings.
It depends on
the whole project.
The whole project, yes.
Right.
And then we would do the same thing with Alt-Ed when we get to that project.
Jerry, we missed what you tried to say.
Yeah, it's just however big the project is. But, one of the first decisions I had to make when I got on the board years ago was to fire the contractor for the high school. And, if you just get a bad contractor, sometimes it doesn't matter what you have, you're going to have problems. So I don't think, it just makes it easier and gives the district a little bit more control, then I think it's worth it.
I agree.
So this is just the AR we're approving on this item, and then we'll the next item will be to have a resolution that says that this is the method we'll use for this particular project.
Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve item 10.8, the administrative regulation leaseback contract.
And I will second that.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Makla,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
and Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
And the next item is the actual resolution for the leaseback 2103.
And this is stating our intention to use this process for the project, the Redwood project. And this was recommended by QKA to use this process.
Are there any questions? Further questions regarding the resolution? And I mean, it's not something that we have to go through legal. There's nothing we're missing. Everything feel pretty.
The template for this actually came from legal.
Great.
So
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion with action item 10.9 leaseback resolution 21.03.
And a second by Kathy.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Makla.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Diana, we'll need you to stop by to sign this at some point so that we can send it in. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Teacher consent form.
So we have these two teachers. We have many teachers at the middle school teaching out of credential. And so this is a consent form that we need to show that we've done the right thing and ask them, can you teach out of your area?
Are there any questions?
It looks like these are for next school year, so these are not for this school year.
I'm looking at it again.
I'm just looking at the assignment dates.
Yes, because Tracy Perriman has a biological science credential and not a physical science credential. But I have to check on this one because now what I'm going to ask you to approve it. We may be able to do Tracy without this only because science for middle school isn't necessarily content specific unless things have changed. So let me check on that one. But still, I'm going to ask you to approve it. And then Mr. Neller is going to be doing humanities, and humanities is social studies and language arts. And so he has an English credential, which covers that. So he's going to be out of his credential area for 1 year, but he's working on getting that credential.
Okay, so this is not for what's happening now. This is for what's going to happen
my
next
apologies.
year. Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions, or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the teacher consent forms.
A second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
And Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Okay.
And 10.11 is the Mendocino Lake Adult and Career Education voting member.
So in order for this person to be able to vote, Annalie is also an employee of ours, but in order for her to vote, you need to approve her as a voting member.
And we do this every year, right?
We haven't had this. This is our first time because this is the adult school career education group.
Okay, because I thought we've had Connie in this position, but it must have been another voting.
Connie was the voting member, so now we want it to be Annalie.
Okay, right. Any questions or a motion?
I'll move that we approve item 10.11.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
I think my mouse battery is dying. Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Okay.
So the last action item is employee conference workshop attendance request, 10.12 or 10.12.
So this conference, we've had a moratorium on travel and conference of any kind of in-person nature. This is in July, and our school counselor at the middle school has requested to attend. It is the American Association for School, it's the American School Counselor Association. It is their national conference that happens annually. She's incredibly excited about it. And it's out of state, so it has to come to you for approval.
And the cost of the conference is covered by the
MTSS is the multi-tiered system of support, the pilot grant that middle school has received.
Exciting. Are there any questions?
I actually don't have a question. I just, as a comment that, going to conferences is, especially for somebody who's fairly new to the whole job, is a great experience. I think this would be amazing for her. She'd gain so much that she could bring back that it would be well worth. I was surprised it was that wasn't more expensive, but I think it'd be well worth it.
Yeah, I was just looking at the estimated cost, and it seems like they're shortchanging themselves a little bit. But if that's what they think it'll cost, it's a lot more than 362 miles to Las Vegas. But just what,
the mileage is for the mileage to the airport.
Thank you. That makes more sense. I thought they were comparing what it would take to drive versus fly.
No.
Great.
The topics are so it looks like a great conference. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Mary? Okay. Second?
I'll second. Yeah, I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Okay.
So now we're moving into information and discussion. COVID-19 resources summary, which is the funds. COVID money.
Yeah, so I sent out a little grid. It has some acronyms at the top of it, and it has each one of the little pots that we have either received or expect to receive. And I have the timelines on each one of them, the resource codes, which isn't mean much to you, but it does to us in here. But you can see that with all of the different resource codes, we have to keep track of each one of those separately and report on each one of those separately. I also had added a column of other comments, things that are important to know about it. The dates by which they have to be spent with the asterisk are the ones that originally were to be spent by December 30th. It was extended, but we had spent all of those funds already. We have spent a fair bit of the first one, the ESSER federal CARES money. We have almost completely spent the learning loss mitigation one that was state Prop 98. It's about halfway down, resource 7420, because that has to be spent by this June. And we're just keeping an eye on not only the allowable uses and the intended uses for them, but also the due dates. So we're using the ones that expire first, using those first. And they all have a similar theme of learning loss mitigation or expanded learning with the goal of learning loss mitigation. Some of them have other little strings attached. For instance, in the AB 86, you can see that's actually broken up into three pieces. One of it is the 10% set aside for our paraprofessionals. 85% of the largest piece has to be used for in-person strategies. 15% can be used for remote activities. And it includes a piece that is for our homeless student counts. So we're going to be looking at strategies and things that we can do that target our homeless population specifically. And then the other piece of the AB 86 is more broad, and you can see it's any purpose consistent with providing in-person instruction for any pupil participating in in-person instruction. And I think for this meeting, I think our goal was to just show you what all of these things are and what their allowable uses are and what our anticipated amounts are. The last two items there, the Gear 2 and the ESSER 3, are the ones that came out of the most recent federal plan that was passed. The Gear 2, we don't know anything about the dollar amount or much of anything other than published. It requires a published reopening. We don't really know nothing about that. we're anticipating that it's going to be fairly broad. The other one, the larger piece, requires the published reopening plan, which is why we're starting this discussion so that you can look at it. We're working on several different proposals to bring to you to consider. We will probably use some of this for, not this one, no, never mind. So 20% of that has to be reserved for learning loss mitigation. And the rest of it, we can look at different things that we might be able to do. We do have a longer spend time on that. It doesn't have to be used until September of 2024, but we do have to have the plan in place by June 1st. So that's the reason why we're giving you this to start looking at and thinking about. And then on the 20th, we'll have some proposals to consider for what we might want to do with these funds and move forward from there.
Wow. Thank you for compiling this. It is helpful to chew on, I guess. And it's kind of crazy that you have all that. I mean, that's great to hear. Some of it doesn't need to be spent for a few years, but you have to have it by this June planned out.
The plan, you have to have a plan approved and posted on your website, and I think sent into the county office, who then will send it to the state for what we're planning to do with the money. And I don't know how locked in we'll be to that. I don't know if there will be an opportunity to amend it or not. We know so little about it other than that.
I think if these were commodities that we were buying, it may be amended without us even, planning on that. So I imagine it will change, like you said, or unknown. So this will be more discussed more thoroughly in the special meeting, but does anyone have any questions or comments right now before we move on to the next item? Mary?
I was just going to ask, have they given you any idea when to expect those allowable details if it's due June 1st?
Well, the allowables, no. We're assuming that it'll be there have been some broad things since I put this together. We've gotten some very broad guidance on what it can be used for, and I'll put that together for the next meeting as well. And so we'll have there is a little bit out there, but it wasn't out in time for me to put into here.
Right. Okay. Typical state.
Yeah.
The way they do things, the cart's rolling and the horse is trying to catch up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why when you looked at the first round of the CARES Act money, I mean, we had $1.5 million that they said, oh, it's coming, and we didn't get it until I think August, but we were allowed to use it for things from when we closed. And by the time we got to where we were moving along to use it, we'd already closed the year. So it really wasn't an option to go back and use it for things from last March. But we did have enough things to do that we were able to spend all of that before we ran out of time.
I've been terrible this meeting, but is there any public comment asking? Yeah, thank you for watching earlier. Are we ready to move on to the next item? 11.2 is the 2021-2024 Lcap development.
So again, this is a 3-year Lcap cycle. I was going to take you through the whole process that I showed you in my report and walk you through a little bit of it. For the interest of time, what I'm going to say is if you would like to participate, we have more meetings coming down the pike, and I would encourage you to attend one of those meetings. You have access to the folders with all of the Lcap engagement. You're welcome to make a copy of any of those documents and give me your own personal input. So I'm also going to try and figure out a way to add something so that parents can provide input virtually as well or through email. So I don't think we need to take the time to do this now. I think it is important as we start whittling through some plans and some proposals for this money. I think that will help guide us with this as well. Questions for me?
Yeah, thank you for doing that. And I like that piece that you can remind them to give virtual or email input. That's a great idea. Anyone else? Otherwise, we'll go to 11.3, in-person board meetings and in-person public comment. Update.
So I have been talking with Becky Jeffries to figure out when we can have in-person board meetings and what the parameters are. And right now, according to her, in the most recent health order that came out on April 2nd, it doesn't appear that anything's changed to allow us to have in-person meetings. But in April 2nd, we weren't in orange, we were in red. So we're still waiting for public health to change their order so we can return to public meetings. And what I anticipate is that